for Driver Training and Traffic Safety Advisory Committee is now in order. Let me handle roll call here real quickly. Ricardo Benavides present. David Bruce.
Present.
Thank you. Blake Garrett.
Present.
Cindy Joe is absent today. Francis Gomez is absent today. Kevin Knapp is running late.
So is Cindy.
Cindy will be here? Okay, thank you. Just running late. Thank you, Carlos. Dr. Lark, Patricia Lark is absent today. Carlos Reina.
Present.
Thank you. Naina, say.
Present.
Morning. Glenn.
Present.
Thank you so much. All right, I'd like to certify that we do have a quorum present. Excellent. Item C, approval of the minutes for the April 21st Advisory Committee meeting of this year. Committee members, I'm sure that you've had an opportunity to look those minutes over. I'd like to get those approved. Anybody have any questions before, in regards to the meeting, any amendments, any changes on the minutes? Anybody? Okay, I'll consider a motion to get those approved.
I'll motion to accept.
Thank you, Glenn, so much. We have a motion on the floor.
Second.
Thank you, Bruce, a second, 9-2. All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next item, public comments. This is the portion where we allow the public to do a public comment. Any person wishing to address the advisory committee can do so. I have 3 forms. By the way, we have some forms up in the front. They actually say public comment form. For those of you, the public, thank you so much, by the way, for coming in today. You're more than welcome to come up here and speak. You're allowed 3 minutes to address and talk to the advisory committee. I'm going to just call out in the order that these were received. We'll start off with Patrick Barrett. Thank you.
Silence is deafening. Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, it's good to see you all again, those of you who made it here.
For the record, Mr. Ray, do you mind your name, sir?
Yes, my name is Patrick Barrett.
Thank you, sir.
My comments today take the form of a report card, a progress report on the TDLR and the advisory board. Since the TDLR has taken over driver education, I would say that in spite of the normal bumps in the road that happen with any transition, the TDLR seems to be an agency that we can live with, and one that, at the very least, creates the feeling that it is willing to listen to us with an open mind. Inviting parent-taught course providers in for an opportunity to provide feedback was helpful and thoughtful. For that, you get an A for effort. I would like to compliment the TDLR staff on the improved and updated version of the parent-taught packet. Although it is still a work in progress, it is much better than what parents had to wade through in previous versions. Grade on this is a B, as it still needs quite a bit of work. However, I can't say the same thing for the advisory board. Perhaps it is too early to judge, since we've yet to see the proposed rule changes. But what I have gathered by listening to the presentations I have heard, I don't see any significant attempts to change the status quo in a way that would produce safer drivers. Any reference to national standards means that you are throwing in the towel with regard to producing safer drivers, that you will most likely continue to recommend more hours of classroom than in-vehicle training. A formula that will ensure that motor vehicle deaths and injuries will continue to be a major source of pain and loss for Texas families. The grade I'm inclined to give this advisory board is a D, because What few changes I have seen proposed, and granted, I just saw some of the others today, seem to make the rules more complicated and intrusive. But in all fairness, I have to simply grade the board with an I for incomplete, because it is too early to judge. I ask you to ask yourselves, what is required to produce a collision-free driver? If you were starting with a clean slate, what would you do to ensure that your daughter would become a safe driver? If her life depended on it, what would you do? Would you have her stare at a computer screen for hours on end, or stick her in a classroom, then just give her a few hours of practice in the car? What would you do? The challenge for you all has not changed. You must look at this with fresh eyes, without the prejudices and conditionings of the past. It seems to me that you've yet to do this. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Before I continue, I wanted to just make or consider a motion to excuse Dr. Lark, by the way, and Francis Gomez for not being here, and the rest of the gang for being late. Anyone can I consider a motion to excuse
I'll
them?
make a motion.
Thank
we
you, Carlos,
excuse
so
him.
much. Anybody second?
Second.
Thank you so much. All those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Just wanted to take care of it. Okay, we have actually one more public comment from Dorothy DeWalt. Step right up. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
I know quite a few of you up there. Some of you don't know who I am. My name is Dorothy DeWalt. I represent Island Driving School, Galveston, Texas City, and LaPorte. And I also am the president of the Texas Professional Driver Education Association. And my comment today is just to let you know that I am here each time we have a meeting to represent my constituents, people in our membership. We have quite a few schools. They're mom and pops. They can't just drop what they're doing, especially in the summer, to come and listen to the meetings and try to get in what they need. So that's what I'm here for. And I've been here for every meeting so that I can make sure they know what they need to know without having to disrupt their income. Because that's what it does when you have to walk away during the summer, our busiest season. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Dorothy.
Thank you for that.
Next item on the agenda is item E, staff reports. Executive Office. Good morning.
Good morning. Board members, how are you doing today?
Doing well, thank you.
Thank you
Thank
guys
you.
for being here. We appreciate it always that you guys show up and roll up the sleeves. I also want to thank you for all the work you've been doing on the work groups. A lot of hours spent on those phones talking to our staff, and I'm excited about the product that we're going to start off with when we do the free look. So you may have heard the news that I'll be the executive director on September 1, but Bill's already started that early. He's already making me clean his office and say, well, move your stuff over here. No, it's been, it's surreal. Bill is my friend, he's my mentor, and I will miss the companionship, the friendship, the mentorship of being around him daily. That's going to be an adjustment. But we've got great staff, as you already know, and so I'm going to be in good hands. I don't think it's a matter of you guys being in good hands with me. I think it's a matter of me being in good hands with the staff. They'll make sure that I don't crash the boat and all that good stuff that goes with it. Couple of things that have taken place. Number one, the strategic plan has been completed. And so you may have noticed, and I think we sent out a listserv message inviting you guys to take a look at it. I'm really proud of our plan. It talks about having a bold direction, and I think that this advisory board and this industry represents that we are taking a bold direction and doing things differently and trying to add value. And I think Patrick, he's got a skill for putting you on the spot, and the spot is a real narrow point, and he makes you sit directly on it, and it's kind of painful, but it's necessary. I love how he focuses our attention on making safe drivers. That is the goal. And you guys have been putting in the work, and I think when people see the document, they're going to recognize that you are taking a very hard look and throwing away a lot of sacred cows, things that were valuable to you and to you. Those pieces are going to be out, and I think the industry is going to be really pleased with the starting point. In fact, in our strategic plan, one of the little blurbs, did you know, speaks to the work that you've already done, which is, did you know that the starting document is about 10,000 words less. The rules are 10,000 words less than what it was when you first got it. And I've got a feeling we're going to end up with about 12,000 words. And obviously, those words were not necessary. They weren't important, and they didn't contribute to creating safe drivers. We're already moving in that direction. It is going to make the life easier for the schools. And if their lives are easier, it means that it allows them to put more attention in the classroom, allows them to put more attention in car. If you remove the paperwork and the burden of government getting in the way of your day-to-day business, it frees you up to do the things that are important. There is a relationship between burdensome regulation, freeing those up, and allowing a person to focus on that core mission. That's what that means. And when we look at the rules and the starting point, you guys have already done some of the heavy lifting. The free look that we're talking about is going to allow the industry to take a free look. Oh, Brian, what do you mean by free? Do we have to pay later on? No, you don't have to pay later on. But the free look is having that first bite, not in the comment period, the traditional put it out there for comment, but a free look where people can talk about it. We have Ms. DeWalt here with her group. They won't have to rush down to the next meeting. They'll be able to chew it out and have some discussion, come back with some focused comments, have another meeting, and then it goes out there for the official comment period. That's going to allow the document and the process to be better. It's going to allow more people to be engaged in the process. And that's what we want. We are going to have cleaner, better, more effective rules at the end of this process, and I'm grateful for the efforts you guys have put in there. When you look at the strategic plan, on page 2, we highlight the advisory board and its important role. And it's not lip service at TDLR that the advisory boards are critical to us having the expertise and you being able to tell us what's going on. That is an important part of our puzzle. It's an important part of our formula of success. Your advisory board is enormous with 11 people. It is unwieldy with 11 people. But you guys have done a fantastic job of putting in the hours. And I want to commend our staff, too, for holding the numerous work group sessions and making them valuable, making them productive. I know we've had to soundproof some of the rooms because of some of the debate and discussion going on, but it's worth it. It's worth it to have you guys think out loud of why do I want to hold on to that. And I appreciate that you guys have come to work very hard on that. A couple of things that you'll notice in the strategic plan as you go through it. Page 4 lists the functional alignment. It's still very difficult to understand how does TDLR work. Most agencies are silo-based, so it's all one big column. Everybody's doing the same thing. We're lined up to where you have our licensing group, and you have the compliance group, and you have the enforcement group. That separation of duties allows TDLR to be more nimble, allows us to change course a lot quicker than most agencies do, but it takes some getting used to as well. It's a difficult part to comprehend. Page 5 of the strategic plan, it's kind of what Patrick talked about. He did a report card. Well, page 5 is our report card from the previous strategic plan. Page 5 says, hey, last time we came around and went through this process, you guys are looking for a document, aren't you? No, I didn't put it in there. I want you guys to listen to me, not read. It's been out there for like 3 weeks. I'm giving you the highlights of the plan. I'm not reading it to you, giving the highlights of the plan. Relax. There will be no test at the end of this presentation. The STRIPE plan's out there for your perusal. It's on our webpage. Take your time to go through it, but I wanted to point out that we include and highlight the advisory board's role. We talk about our functional alignment so you can get an idea of how it works. We give a report card on the last strategic plan saying, here are the ideas and the promises that we made last time. Check is on it. We were able to follow through on it. we've made some more promises in this plan. Check us on it. We're going to follow through on those promises as well. This plan also included the opportunity for agencies to create goals. And you would think that's something that has existed along. It hasn't. In the past, our goals were given to us. This time around, we were able to develop our goals, and they match who we are as an organization. We want to streamline, make things fancy, make things easier, do the low-cost thing. That's one of our goals. Christina's goal that she had in there for enforcement was to remove all the petty administrative penalties, and let's focus on those that cause harm, consumer harm to the folks. Focus our resources like a district attorney office on a murder case versus a jaywalking case. Right now, the way our agency's set up, and all agencies, if it's a jaywalking case, it gets just as much attention. It rises up to the top, just like a murder case, and we want to be able to toggle our enforcement resources on those cases that make a difference to a consumer's life. Thank you. We also have a goal in there that speaks to the consolidation. And it basically says, legislature, thank you. You gave us 14 programs to oversee since the last session. And our goal is to make sure that the management and the administration and the services that are delivered through those programs are better than they were before they came to us. And it's a simple goal, but it has a lot of layers. It has a lot of strings attached to it. I can't wait for the presentation that's going to be done by some of our folks in education and IT group that talks about, hey, Cindy Jo. Hi. How are you doing? Welcome.
Hello.
Thanks.
Which nameplate?
Right over here.
Actually, where's Thank you.
The other part, if you look at our strategic plan, there's a section that says, agencies identify any redundancies and impediments in your statutes. Basically, things that need to get removed. And we identified about 70 across the board for all of our programs. I will highlight the ones that deal direct with driver's education. When you compare the number and the quality of the redundancies that we identified, we reviewed about 15 or 20 other state agency strategic plans. If you add up all the redundancies in theirs that they identified, they're about 20 short of what we did in our one plan. It is bold, and it is aggressive, and it speaks to everything that Bill and I and the staff believe in, which is let's get out of the way, let's get the unnecessary burdens out of the way. There are a few that we highlighted for your industry that I want you guys to take a look at when you get a moment. This is when you're getting old, when you have to take off glasses to see. My daughter's like, why do you take them off to see, baby? You'll understand one day. One that came from Gay, Estes, and Kathy was to amend and reduce the surety bond amount from $25,000 to $10,000. The historical look at that is that we've never hit that amount. Why make the companies pay more for a surety bond that provides less protection?
That's correct.
Let's match the protection appropriately for that. The other one is to amend the subsection that requires the instructor renewals be mailed and postmarked 30 days prior to the expiration date. Folks, that doesn't make sense. I am the king of procrastination. Let me have my full 30 days of procrastination. Don't make me send 30 days before I get to be late. I want to be right up to that late line. That doesn't make sense. It created a violation where there was no violation. If you're late, that's the violation. We had to change our terminology internally to say there's a late renewal filing, and then there's really a late renewal. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to have the instructors bundle and funnel it through the school. Now we've added another layer of bundling. Oh, but Brian, we want to make sure that they get those instructor applications. These are grown folks. They have responsibilities. They have children. They are teaching our kids how to drive. I think they can turn an application on time. If we can trust them in car, we can trust them with submitting their application. That's an unnecessary burden. The other one is to bring some consistency. Right now, if you are the parent who is going through parent taught, so we'll say the instructor, you could never have a DWI for your lifetime. You can't drink and teach your kids, ever. You were 22 years old and now you're 56, and you had a DWI back then. You can't teach your children, but there's 7 years that the instructor who's in car, who's the stranger, doesn't know the kid. They have a 7-year period. So what we try to do is just bring those in line. There are a number of other, what we refer to as cleanup provisions, but these are the ones that we highlighted that we think create a burden, that they are impediments, and they are inconsistencies that speak volumes of how this can be improved. Brian, what does the process look like later? It looks like we'll start developing some language internally. It's not done in a vacuum. There's this thing called a legislative session that starts in January. Hopefully, we'll be able to work with the different committees and find some committee chairs that believe that these ideas are important and that they're necessary. There'll be no secret on that. In fact, because we published it in our strategic plan, you guys already know what we're thinking. The other 20 programs know what we think about their statutory provisions. And we want you guys to understand that our purpose is not to make your lives harder. It's to remove the burdens that make your lives burdensome. But frankly, it makes our lives harder trying to figure out how do we regulate this convoluted stuff. So there is a little self-serving component that allows us to be more efficient in the process. I would encourage the advisory board members, the folks that are present, and those that are listening, take a look at the strategic plan. It is our accountability document. It's your time to say, okay, TDR, you guys talk about how good you are. We're putting on paper the things we want to be and how we want to achieve them. And you guys are the ones that are going to hold us accountable to making sure we get that done. So I'm excited about the prospect of that. Mr. Chairman, I do want to touch just briefly on the contact center. When you look at the number of phone calls that we are receiving as an agency associated with the program, it's significant. It's a significant number of calls and emails. Since September, we received about 18,000 phone calls and emails coming to our agency. To put it into perspective, in September, when we first got the program, they trickled in at about 43 calls a month. Well, we can handle that. I can bring my daughter up on the weekend. We can handle 43 phone calls. Well, now the phone calls have risen to 3,642 a month. And we expect that that number is going to stay true through the summer because of parent taught and those sort of things. There's quite a bit of demand, quite a bit of work that's coming in just that area of our operation. But I'm proud to say that our customer service division is really stepping up and doing a better job than we did before that increase took place. Because it went from like 43, 56, 112, 1,200, 2,800, 3,600, and we had to make some changes to our process, how we routed the calls. We had to make some changes in the teams that are dedicated to answering those calls, but it's been worth it, and we're excited to say that our staff is very smart and very capable of identifying the child who is calling as their parent. They tend to do that a little bit. They think that, if I change my voice from 16 to 17 and a half, that they're going to fool us. But we've had an opportunity to really provide a higher level of service. As Patrick pointed out, the parent-taught packet and the reformatting of that has significantly decreased the growth in the number of calls. We don't have people saying, I read through your packet and I went to the phone number, so I'm calling you. What do I need to do? Kevin, how are you doing, my friend? Thanks for making it. So, Mr. Chairman, those are the things I wanted to highlight about the contact center, the strategic plan. I encourage everyone to take a look at it. If you look very, very way back here in the background, that's me behind Shrub 2055. But we weren't able to zoom and get a face shot. I thought that would be too presumptuous to do that, so we didn't do that. But I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
I recognized it with your glasses.
The glass that you saw the reflection.
And old age isn't the glasses, it's when you forget you left them on the top of your head.
Oh, we doing hair jokes or no hair jokes. I deserve that.
Thank you. I'd like to recognize, of course, Kevin and Cindy for making it. Thank you so much. On behalf of the advisory committee, Brian, we'd like to congratulate you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's going to be exciting having you in the helm, in charge.
It is.
Very, very nice.
Yeah, I've lost about 40 pounds just after the announcement of it, so it's going to be interesting. I'm excited about that.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian. Any questions, committee members? All right, we're moving on to the next item. It's E2 Compliance Division. Morning, Kathy.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, committee members. I'm Kathy Phillips with the Compliance Division. And I didn't realize my boss was gonna join us, but I'm glad he's up here.
I'm Lee Parham. I'm
Yep.
the Regulatory Programs Manager where the driver education program is located in the Compliance Division. And Kathy's got the first two announcements here that I'll kind of give you a little detail on.
Okay. As I'm sure that you've read, on June 30th, Gay Estes retired after 26 years of state service. And as of July 15th, I will also be leaving after almost 26 years with state service. So it's been a privilege to know some of you I've known the whole time I've worked for the state, so it's been a pleasure to know you. Do you want me to go ahead and do the projects, or you want to?
No,
Okay.
I'll take over from here. Okay, this summer I've had two of these, okay, with Gay retiring and Kathy leaving. However, we're in succession right now and transition in the Compliance Division. So we have posted a Driver Training and Safety Program Specialist 5, okay? Basically Kathy's position. And that was posted on July the 8th, all right? And it's going to be open until filled. There's no time frame on it. So that'll give us time to get a lot of good applications. We'll vet the applications and do our interviews and make our choice. So that's kind of what we're looking at in the future this summer.
Wanted to talk to you a little bit about some of the projects that we've been involved in. One of the things that Lee wanted us to do was to look at our current program of organized instruction, which is basically our standard for driver's ed in Texas, and compare it with like the national standards. Basically what NHTSA, National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, considers, you know, the important objectives. And when we were looking at that, we kind of also were looking at data trends, crashes, fatalities, et cetera, to make sure that the curriculum's on target. We were pretty pleased to find out that most of the POI is pretty much in line with what the national standards and recommendations are. So that was some good news. I know that there'll probably be some tweaking in the future because I think they're also working on other, you know, standards at this time. One of the other things that we had information on is a project called Vision Zero. And what Vision Zero was basically founded in Sweden, and because they saw a lot of accidents and deaths due to vehicular issues, so they started looking at what they could do to reduce those deaths. And they actually passed in their parliament that if they focused in certain areas, that they could reduce those deaths, and they've seen a 41% decrease in their vehicle death rates. So several countries in Europe have also started implementing Vision Zero, and there's a few cities in the United States that have also adopted it, and we found out that Austin has actually come up with a Vision Zero ATX. And so the objective is to find out where the accidents are, and they've seen a significant increase in pedestrian deaths by being hit by cars. So they're trying to figure out what they can do and what they can put in place to help eliminate, would be the objective, to none, but to also decrease, if possible, those deaths. So we contacted them, and we're hoping that TDLR will continue to be a part of this program and this objective. And like I said, Austin's the main one in Texas, and I believe San Antonio also has this in place. Something that y'all also might want to look at, you know, to get involved in your cities. We also participated in the strategic planning sessions and made suggestions, because one of the things that they do here is that they look at what did we do well, what can we do better, you know, what are some suggestions, how can we, you know, make this the best that we can. So we were glad to participate and make some suggestions in that. And we will continue, as Lee said, when they hire someone, to participate in upcoming projects. In our public outreach, we were able to participate in the Travis County Underage Drinking Prevention Task Force and the TxDOT Crossroad Coalition meetings, who these agencies all are working together to improve safety for all the transportation systems. And so I'm sure that TDLR will be also continuing participating in that. And I just wanted to say as my last point here, unless you have questions, is that I've really enjoyed working for Lee and George in compliance, and it's a great section. They were great bosses. And so this has nothing to do with them not being good bosses, because they were excellent. It's just that I've got some things that I'm going to be participating in with my husband, and so it was time for a change. But anyway, so unless you have questions, that's my last presentation.
Mr.
Kathy, I
Chairman.
appreciate that. George and Lee have had a horribly high number of retirements lately. And so that was.
That is not them,
Yeah,
trust me.
We had just installed trapdoors underneath their seats for this meeting. And so disable the trapdoors, disable them. Let's don't go forward with that, but they were that close to just falling through the floor. But I want to tell you thank you for giving TDLR a chance. And I remember meeting you probably some 7 or 8 years ago, going through the exercise, and I remember meeting you over the summer
Yes.
and talking to you, and there was a light in your eye that said that you were going to be fantastic with us, and I appreciate you joining our staff, and
Thank you.
I wish you luck, and I know you're going to be working closely with your husband at marriage counseling. You know,
Yes.
just think about that. Think about
Well,
that.
actually, that's what my master's is in
Oh,
counseling.
okay,
so-
okay, there it is, there it is. Doctor heal thyself, physician heal thyself, okay? But thank you so much for being a part of our team.
Thank
I
you.
know Carlos has something to say.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is Carlos Reina. As I was excited to hear that Brian's taken over the helm, I was also saddened to see that you and Gay were going to leave. And I think I can speak for the industry. I think everybody will join me in this, and that while this might not be proper, I'm just going to tell you and Gay, just give this to her for me and for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, Kathy, don't leave.
Oh,
We often give you accolades, but.
you're going to make me cry.
Well, that's okay too. So you really know you're going to be missed, but thank you so much for your service. I know we've been,
Since the beginning of time.
beginning of this time with the Texas Education Agency, through a lot of things and so forth, and best wishes for your future.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman, just one last one. Kathy,
Thank you.
I think you were the first person I met at the TEA some 18 years
Yes.
ago.
Yes.
You're an awesome person. Everyone's going to miss you.
I
TDLR
appreciate
will miss
that.
you. We'll miss you. So I wish you the best of luck. But if you ever change your mind, please try to come on back. But you're awesome. So good
Well,
luck. in
maybe after a
everything.
year of working with my husband, I may be
No comment.
reapplying.
It's been a pleasure, Kathy.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next item is E3, Education and Examination Division. Thanks so much, Pam.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
Mr. Chairman, as they're getting set up, I just wanted to share with you that Shanesty is in our education examination group. Teresa is part of our IT group. She's a business analyst. As we were preparing for our hearing with Chairman Phillips, I had asked Shanesty, who works on the education school applications, hey, bring me an application. I just want to kind of get a sense of how they look and how they flow. And so she comes into my office and she drops this weight on my desk. I mean, literally just rocked my desk. And I said, okay, I just wanted to look at one application. She said, no, this is one application. So that kind of shook me a little bit. So we went through it line by line. And in that review, we had identified just some cursory level things that, while we can make their lives easier and our lives easier by streamlining this packet. And so I turned it over to Shanesty, Teresa, and Mary Winston right here, and said, you guys do something with it. And I just want you to see how our staff runs with streamlining and how our focus on leaning up application processes works. So I've asked them just to give you a quick primer of what they've done in this application.
So, good morning, everyone, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I'm Shanesty Villanueva, and this is Teresa Alvarez. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so sitting in front of you, it's the current driver education application and the revised driver education application. Our goal, as Brian had mentioned earlier, is to improve efficiencies during the application process, effectively consolidate and improve the services, and to decrease regulatory burdens on businesses by removing redundancies and impediments. So here's the slideshow. On the current driver education applications, they really weren't consistent with the rest of the TDLR applications. The request for information was repetitive. There were over 17 requests for signatures, 14 address requests. The person filling out the application had to sign their name about 29 times. The telephone numbers were inconsistent. There was one customer service telephone number, and then there was another customer service telephone number. Like, it wasn't straight across the board. So we just kind of went through and we cleaned it up a little bit. Like I said, we created only one signature page. And I'm just kind of going through this just pretty quickly. Previously, when I received an application, it was they wouldn't fill out the license number. We didn't know if it was for a branch location. So, yeah, we just slimmed it, cut it back a lot. So, anyway. We also added the school website address. That wasn't listed on the previous application, and this will help us whenever we do searches, and we can have the website address available on our website. The ownership page that was on the original driver education application, it kind of asks for everything, and we don't run a background check on the owners. It asks for the social security number, if they've ever been convicted of a misdemeanor or felony, and things like that. So I just completely removed all of that, and we just made one ownership page. And then, so here's the one signature page. We just removed the 17 signature pages, and there's only one.
Jesse, can you hold that thought and just let it linger in the air a little bit? In the application that we reviewed, thank you, the applicant had to sign her name 17 times because I am a nerd and I'm very, very meticulous. I noticed that, oh, she signed it 3 different ways. Oh, let's beat her with the knotted stick. No, she should have only had to sign it one time. And so 17 removals of it, and I think 2 of them had to be notarized even, and there was no value added by the notarization, except for it was just another hurdle that the person had to go through. So that change alone made me happy, and I danced, and I'm not a good dancer, but it was in public. Please.
There is So all of our other TDLR applications, there is like an instruction page. So we also created an instruction page. It was more in depth. When right now what is posted on the website, we get a lot of calls, and they just send in everything. They just go through, and then they just click on every form on there, and some of the forms they don't even need. And so this, the required document page, it tells them this is what you need, and if you're also going to offer the adult, then you're going to need this additional application and the additional $500 fee. And that wasn't really clear on the current form. So. Mhm. The staff roster, right now, they are submitting a staff roster for everything, for DDAP instructors, for driving safety, and also for driver education. So just to be a little bit more cleaner, what we're going for, instead of having the multiple forms to click on, we're just going to have the packet. It's going to be a one-click, and then they just fill out that entire packet and submit it. So it's less confusing. The DE course list, it was revised so it can match the database that we're working with now. So that was just a little, it's less confusing, and it's easier for us to process. So right now, this was a makeup policy, it's beneficial, but what we're doing is we're just cutting back on the amount of paper that's being submitted. So right now, since we are asking for the student enrollment contract, I just combined the verbiage from the makeup policy, added it to the student enrollment contract, and also added the verbiage to the responsibilities of the school. So one less form. And the motor vehicle fleet form, they currently are not submitting this form, and it was removed altogether, but this would help us during the inspection process. So I just revised it a little bit, added it back to the form, and they still have to submit the insurance declarations page so we can, have proof that the car is covered. And I'm only showing you the driver education form, but we did revise the driving safety forms, and we're going to make those available to the public because right now they're not, as well as the course providers. I revised the most current forms used, and then we're going to start going with the AMI and ADM forms as well. And that's all that I have, and Carrie's up next.
I just want to again commend Shanesty and Teresa and Mary. They worked really hard. All three of them are from different divisions, and it's just an example of the collaboration that we have across divisions, and just a perfect example of how streamlining should be done. We would invite maybe to the email address for the education group, if you can recall some stories of how long it took you to complete the application, whether it was an hour, 20 minutes, or days, and then just try to figure out. We'll start gathering some data on how long it takes you to complete this application now that it's been modified. I think that's going to tell a pretty good story about how we try to take away the hours and the keystrokes.
Can I say one last thing?
Absolutely.
If you look at the application that you're looking at, I tried to reach out to some of the newer schools to get some information on how long it did take them. But in there, you can tell that they started working on the application in April because of the date signed, and then it was March. There's other forms, so it was a very lengthy process for them. So it was probably about 3 to 4 months, and then another 2 to 3 weeks for us to process the school application in-house and then get the license mailed out. So just by what that application, the dates on that, it was probably 4 to 6 months. It seemed like so. Anyway, thank you, guys.
I have a question. Go ahead then.
Well, a comment and then a question. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yes, I always wondered if one signature is good for the bank, for the IRS, buy a house, Why did I have to sign 500 million times to say that we were obligated to do whatever driver training was? So I greatly appreciate it down to the signature level and everything else. I do want to make a comment about the POI form in here. Is this the most current version of the classroom curriculum?
Yes, I didn't change any of that.
Okay, recreational water safety needs to be placed in module 11.
Oh, okay. That's what is currently listed on the website. So that was not revised, but I'll
Well,
make sure.
It was not revised when the POI was revised with
Okay.
our lovely recreational water safety.
Okay, thank you. Mhm. Thanks for pointing that out.
Thank you. Any other questions? I had one question, because we're talking about applications, and I know that we had mentioned it before. I'm not sure what department would handle it. The renewals. I get a lot of questions from my instructors. Are they being sent out to the instructors and the schools when it's time for the renewal process, or we're just supposed to just, I guess, look at our license when it expires and
We'll have
take care of it?
Chloe come up during the licensing presentation to address that.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you, Brian, so much.
Thank you,
Tennessee,
everyone.
Thank you. Great
Have a
work.
good day.
Thank you, Teresa. Awesome. Okay, our next agenda is enforcement. Carrie, how are you?
Good morning. How is everyone this morning?
Good.
Awesome.
Morning, Carrie.
Carrie Hodges, TDLR. I'm sure y'all know who I am. A couple of house cleaning real quick. One, it was great working with you. I think I still have your number, so expect me to call. As far as y'all know, I have 17 years left, so I don't have any fear of retiring anytime soon. And Shannesty and Teresa, great job. Honestly, great job. I will tell you, as somebody that likes efficiency, that made me very happy. I know it made, Brian did a little dance and he can't dance, but I can, and I was cutting a rug. I was so excited to see that. Like, it really, it made me happy because I know it's actually going to make your lives easier. So to jump right in, what I'll just talk about just real quick is key statistics. Basically, since our last meeting, I haven't had any new course providers. We've had 5 new parent talk courses. We've had 6 new driving safety schools and 5 new driver education schools. What I'm hoping for is, with the ease of this transition and the new forms, that'll actually make it a little bit easier to submit these applications. And when we come back next meeting, we'll actually have more schools and more opportunities for our citizens to go out there and get some good driver education. What I want to talk about real quick is, I know Brian touched on earlier about our strategic plan goals, and it's funny. Actually, the first 2 goals in education and exam are actually, they basically, they represent what we do and what we are continually trying to do. The first one happens to be my favorite: to make public outreach a priority for all TDLR employees and a core responsibility. What we've been doing over the past several months, and I've spoke on it, but we've actually gone to several workshops for instructor development courses. They were, I'm sorry, not instructor development, but just instructor workshops for them to, for instructors to get their continuing education requirements. The last couple, we actually threw DPS to the wolves, and John Dela Cruz is actually with us here today. He is an assistant manager with DPS, and he is also over the program review section that handles third-party testing. So in these workshops, we're actually going out and reaching out to the public and speaking to the industry and trying to get the voice, which also ties into the second goal of the voice of the customer. This is what we really want to hear, because we can regulate all day long, but we don't know what we really need to regulate unless we hear the voice of the customer. With the program review section, my team works really closely with the program review section, because if there's an issue in the driver license station, who do you guys call? You call me. And who do I call? I call John. And what we're trying to do is get that going. DPS also has a field training that they do, and it's already been discussed that the next time they do field training, my team is actually going to go speak to their field trainers and let them know this is what TDLR is doing. This is what our DE 964s look like. This is what we have going on in TDLR to help them go back out to the field and train better. Helps us in our training, and it really personifies these first 2 goals that we have in our strategic plan. One of the things that Bill did before he left, and I think that we talked about it last time, with he did what's
He's
called
still
a...
here.
He's, sorry, well, he's not here today, but he is still here, yes. He's busy. Before he, well, and I knew what I was saying, before he left, I was like, don't confuse me. Before he steps out the door, one of the projects that he worked on was a business card project, and I absolutely adored it. What he actually did for us is he told us, I need for you to come up with like a quote or a phrase or something that really identifies who you are as a person, as an employee. What do our core values do for you? And it took me forever. Mine was like this long, and he's like, no, I need it more this long. And I could not get it. And Brian actually came and talked to me one day, and he said, okay, tell me what it is that you enjoy. I said, I have a passion for driver education. If I didn't, I wouldn't be currently in an instructor development course, which I did my first drives last week. I'm still alive, everybody. It was awesome.
Yeah.
But
Did you wreck the car?
I didn't. So it was great.
No dents, nothing.
No dents, no scratches, and it was a Charger. So, but what I ended up coming up with, which again took me a while, was translating passion into successful results. And that's my slogan. That's what I basically live by in my everyday job with this particular industry. I love what we do here. I have a passion for it. My team has a passion for it. TDLR is helping us foster that passion and really helping things to become better for the industry. Again, it was really sad. I'm really sad that Gay and Kathy well, Gay's already left us and Kathy's headed out the door, but we still have a great connection with those two. Like, I know that if I have a question, I can pick up the phone and call them anytime. And that's because even at TDLR, when you leave, we're still a family. Even though we talked about functionality earlier, everybody at TDLR has that functionality, which is, again, to fall back on our strategic plan goals, is we want to hear a customer's voice. We want to hear your voice to make this industry better. And when we're working on these rules, and at this point, we agreed last time, we're working on the first part of them. We're working on curriculum next. And the curriculum, we know that's the big boy. We know that's going to take us a while, but it's going to look great when we're finished. And that's all. I'm tunnel vision looking towards the end because I know it's going to be great. Between working with Della and everyone else, this has been a very interesting process for me, but it's helped me learn. It's helped TDLR learn about the industry, and you guys have been absolutely awesome. I think that's pretty much all I have for today, unless somebody has any questions. No? Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Excellent. Before we move on, committee members, anybody up for a break, or do we want to continue a little bit more? Consider a break? Members? Yeah? Okay, well, let's take a little break, a 10-minute break. If that's all right, and then we'll get back to item F and G. Thank you.
Down in front.
We have no commentary. I don't think any of them are. When he gavels.
Thank you, that's the magic trick. Gracias, thank you.
There you go. Okay.
Okay, we are back. I'm not sure what I missed here. We did 4, 5. Robert, you were enforcement, right?
That's correct.
Thank you so much. We're on 4. Thank you. Good morning, Robert.
Morning. My name is Robert Rennick. I'm an attorney in the Enforcement Division. My presentation will be very brief. The most noteworthy event for the Enforcement Division was a meeting on May 9th of this year between Christina Kaiser and the Enforcement and Compliance Work Group. They met for the purpose of attempting to streamline some of the rules that apply to this committee. And Ms. Kaiser presented enforcement-related provisions that the work group could consider for removal from the agency rules. And the recommendations of the work group are contained in the proposed rule changes that are before you today that Ms. Lindquist will be talking with you about. Other than that, we have the key statistics for the year. I think you've been presented, each of you have been presented with those, and those are self-explanatory. If you have any questions, I'll answer them at this time. Other than that, that's it for enforcement.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. That was short and sweet.
Yeah, I tried to keep it that way.
Thank you. I want to make sure I didn't forget anybody. You are, Chloe, you're with licensing? There we go. Thank you so much. We are on item E5, licensing.
Good morning, Chairman and board members. You have your statistics report before you. Let me go over the renewal history. Prior to the DES program coming to us, they had stopped all renewal notices from going out to the instructors or to the schools, however they were sending them to them. We currently are now sending out the renewal notices. They have been going out for about a month now. So you should be, if the instructor brings it to you, it has a new look, looks nothing like what's out there online right now. The renewal form that's out there, we're pulling off, and it will just be for an upgrade. So we're currently working on that to update that form, to take the renewal information off, and they'll just receive the renewal instructor's form directly going to the individual that will need to provide that information back to us. I also want to let you know we are currently working on a backlog on the renewal instructor forms. We are currently working on a back date of June 20th. We had some on the cart yesterday. I gave them a challenge of let's have this done by the end of the day while I was processing batches, getting new forms out there for them to work on. And so we did that challenge, and now they're currently over there just pushing them out now. So I've been checking in while I'm sitting here at the meeting. But if you have any other questions for me, I'll be glad to answer them.
We do. Who'd like to go first?
I will.
I'm sorry, Chloe.
No,
We actually
everybody don't
we do
jump
have
at the
some
same
questions
time.
on this one. Thank you so much for your patience.
No problem. This is Glenn Winningham. So our company's noticed, at least in the driver safety industry, that there had been a great backlog on the renewals, as you say. Some of the instructors are on their way up to 2 months now, not receiving their renewal back. So I did want to ask about that. You did address that, saying that a lot of them are being pushed through now. The one thing that it kind of dovetails into is what Brian was talking about earlier in regards to the new standardized renewal form, where the renewals have to be sent in on basically, or postmarked by the date of expiration of the actual license. And so I just want to make sure that the TDLR keeps in mind that if it is taking longer than the original kind of 7 to 10 days, which they were being pumped out at the very beginning, technically those instructors, if they're not granted a grace period, would be teaching driver safety courses for a month or 2 months with an expired license. That's something that we obviously don't need, and so that would be something to consider in regards to the late postmark date and how fast these are being processed.
Right, and we are currently also working with education to standardize the continuing education part of it too, because we'll come to a part where we'll accept one thing for continuing education, but we're not going to accept something else for continuing education. So we need to streamline that as well. So that's a process that we're working with education on.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank
Mr.
you.
Winningham, I'll just tell you that I met yesterday with Dee Dee McEachran, who's the Director of Licensing, to talk about the backlog. And we're considering a couple of options. One is Dee Dee was coming to me asking for an additional person or two in that area. We're also exploring doing some temporary employees to try to address the backlog. I want Della to touch on the Administrative Procedures Act, which I believe will alleviate the fear that people have about timely filing of the renewal. So Della, if you'll touch on that real quickly.
Yes, under the Administrative Procedures Act, it basically says if a person does everything they're supposed to do, basically timely, applies, pays, and all other ways meets the criteria to get a license and does everything they're supposed to do, then they are considered active and renewed until the department or administrative body takes some action on the license. So that's kind of how it works. Sometimes we have some systems here, there are holds placed on licenses if there's some kind of enforcement action that might not issue a license right away until they've paid or made good, but underlying all of that, the law says you can continue to work if you've done everything you're supposed to do. Now, if you let it expire and you didn't pay to renew, that's a different story. But if you've paid to renew timely and done everything else, otherwise meet the qualifications, until they take action on your license to deny it or renew it or deny it or revoke it or something, legally they can continue to work.
Okay.
And our inspectors are aware of that. Our enforcement division's aware of that as well. So we've got, the right hand and the left hand understanding that situation. But we are going to definitely take care of the
We're making
processing
some
side.
adjustments, employee adjustments to help with the backlog.
Okay.
And also with, when there is a delay in the instructor getting their renewal license, if we've sent them a letter requesting additional information and they are not sending it back to us timely, then that delays them getting their renewal as well.
Understood.
This is Carlos Reyna. I want to clarify, for history's sake, the 30-day prior actually was back from the 1980s when DPS had us, and all licenses expired on December the 31st. So they wanted them in 30 days prior so they could start working on them so they could get them out in the field. And even then they were late because just everybody came in at one time. But correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that only applies to driver education. I do not believe the 30-day applies to driving safety, so they don't have that burden. So I know that can be confusing, but the number one complaint or questions and calls I'm getting to me are from people waiting for their licenses, and they're asking me, what should I do? And I'm glad you clarified that, about that as long as they've submitted timely, they can continue, because that's what I've told them, but they're nervous to do that.
I'll tell you what we'll do, and I'll put some pressure on the staff. We will craft an FAQ that speaks specifically to that issue so that you don't have to keep filling those questions. And it'll talk about, if I file my application timely, what does timely mean? Before X date, pay the fee, complete your continuing education. And if it's not processed or received, can I still, and we'll get that worked out, so.
Also, was there a revision
Kathy, that
to
may be
the,
one of your last jobs to do.
to the renewal application? Has it been revised? I've heard rumors
Yes,
to that fact.
yes, sir, it has. It's already
simplified?
gone out, yes.
Okay, good.
So the renewal application that is sent has been revised, but the
Yes.
one that's on the webpage, we still need to
Yeah,
adjust
we're
that.
taking that off.
Ricardo Benavides. Chloe, I just have a question, just so I can keep my instructors informed in the schools. What's the timeline that the department is doing in regards to issuing these renewals? Let's say that my license expires January the 1st. When would an instructor expect a renewal application or a letter be sent to them?
The renewals will go out 65 days prior to the license expiring.
Okay. Excellent. And that would be for the driver's ed and driving safety, actually.
All of the renewals will go out that early.
Thank you very much. Any other questions, committee members?
Just one more thing. Sorry, Glenn Winningham. I just want to make sure that, that the TDLR also considers, which I'm sure you guys are going to, notifying the course provider when the actual instructor license is renewed, whether it's something just as simple as an email. So, because when they're sending in classes to us to be processed, okay, we don't want to be processing classes for somebody who has not been renewed, or you all will not be renewing. Okay, because we're under the understanding that they did everything that they were supposed to do and sent everything, so we keep processing, but really, we don't know if they've been renewed or not. So,
Currently, we do not email the schools to let them know when an instructor has renewed. You can go to our website and look on the licensing search and see if they have been renewed or not. We could look into maybe a process to let you guys know when they have been renewed and see how we could work on that.
Yeah, Chloe, I think what Ms. Winningham's concern is, since he's a course provider, our instructors are out in the field throughout Texas, and for a driver ed school, well, we can simply ask the instructor, let me see your license, is it renewed? In driving safety, that's a different animal, because they're out there, and sometimes we do not have interaction other than graduation reports. That's why we used to be, course provider-wise, the middleman. They'd send them to us, we'd send it to them, they'd send it back to us, we'd send it to you. It was a hassle, but that was how we kept track of it at the time. I don't know if there's a better idea that we might come up with where the course providers can be kept in the loop.
yeah.
So that's just for driver safety?
Yes,
Is
just
what
for
we're talking
driving
about?
safety.
Okay.
And I'm all for streamlining the process and what you're doing. It makes our lives easier as a course provider to not have to be sending out renewal notices and renewal reminders to all of our agencies and instructors. Thank you.
You're welcome.
What, I have another question. For new, I have a class of new instructors coming through. What is the time frame I can look at? It used to be about 4 weeks for once the singing and that application and all of that to be completed.
It's pretty much the same time frame.
Okay.
A question. Nina Saint, along with the course provider, the schools with the driver education instructors, do they take at face value when that instructor tells, we did everything we're supposed to, I sent in my application, my continuing ed, my money, and so forth, and they just said to continue, and the license will be here? So, under an investigation or an audit, is that the answer we give to the auditor, that the instructor told us that they were licensed, and then we find out that they were never going to be licensed
I think,
at all?
I think
Because of
you'll-
an issue that
You'll probably
we're not
add to
informed of.
our 13 or 12,000 phone calls and say, has this instructor filed timely? You'll probably call in on that one. Knowing you, Nina, you're gonna verify. You're gonna trust but verify on that. And that's a call that we'll take. We are going to get our system operating to where the licenses are issued consistent with other programs. That's going to happen. And that's going to build the confidence in the process. But until then, call us about an applicant.
Because, I mean, license in hand, you know,
Yeah,
we want a copy of it. We don't want to put somebody on the schedule because sometimes face value isn't accurate.
I agree.
And so we make the phone call. I think we make an email is what we do. Thank you.
Anybody else? Chloe, thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.
Appreciate it. All right. Next item on the agenda is, we're going to combine F and G because it's kind of mixed together for Della. Step right up. Yes.
I don't go anywhere without Carrie lately.
It's like a security blanket.
Good afternoon, or good morning, members. My name is Della Lindquist, Deputy General Counsel. And I could add something, Nina, that might help your situation that you just mentioned. You might put the burden on that potential instructor. If they can't get the license to you, perhaps they could send an email somehow something in writing to TDLR and have that communication back to confirm their license, to hand that to you, to show that to you, and that might cut down on some of the phone calls you might have to make.
Okay,
So.
thank you.
Okay, what we have before us today, I'm assuming you all got 3 documents that were really the culmination of months and months of work groups and people putting their heads together and discussing all manner of things. There's a chart that purports to help you step from the rules the way they came 9-1 of 15 to the document that you're looking at today. Then there's subsections A through L, which are in clean kind of underlined form. I know that at least one of you asked for a red line copy of the rules today. Because these rules have been torqued and changed and gone upside down and sideways, I think if we'd handed you something that looked like that, it would have been impossible to read. So we're hoping that the chart, the work groups, the explanations from today, and looking at what they look like now will help you understand where they came from and why they may no longer be there, or where they're in the spot they're in today. And then the third document is essentially, like we talked about, subsections M through the end, which is essentially the curriculum type subsections that we, of course, will publish when we publish all the rules, because there are some changes to be made to that. Not a huge amount of substantive changes, some, because as we discussed, we will tackle curriculum next. So there are some changes to be made to this area of the rules where we've moved the curriculum to a different section, different subsections, and we will commit to making the changes that the work group came up with, replacing department, TEA with department, that kind of thing, and there were some other type changes, but the main focus of the curriculum will be tackled a little bit later in the summer. So I won't really discuss that in depth too much today, but needless to say, within a few days after today's meeting, if there's some changes that you really want to be put in or made today, we can do that. I think the plan is to put them on the website.
That's correct.
By the end of the week or early next week for the free look or the public viewing. And then, of course, we will take some comments, start them kind of early. And then the timeline essentially is going to be, if we stick to the schedule, the next meeting that we will be convened together will be September 22nd. We may combine that with the summit, but that's the next official driver education and safety meeting, where hopefully we will have a product that's, after the viewing and the comments, that's ready for you to publish for yet another 30 days of more public comment. So this today, don't be alarmed, is not in its final form, really. It's just, it's almost there. I feel like it's close. I hope you believe it's close, but there's still room. So don't panic if there's something there you just can't live with. So the schedule then would be, we would file them with the Texas Register October 3rd. They would be published October 14th. Comment period would close November 14th. Then we would have another board meeting at some time unscheduled yet, but end of November or early December. And then hopefully we would take all the comments ever generated and go through them with you, make any changes or not. And then we would take them, hopefully, to the next available commission meeting, which we might miss the December meeting because of the holidays. We usually have it in early December, but might be the January meeting of the commission for hopefully adoption at that time. Adoption of this first round of changes to be effective probably end of January or more likely February 1st of 2017. So we're moving along. It's been 2 years since I started working on this with Ray and the team, but there is an end in sight. So, but just to let you know that today is by no means, this is the final thing that the world is going to see forever. It's just a culmination of all of your work, our work, and to show you and explain to the public also how we got here. So, any questions on the timeline or whatever? Okay, so I will basically set aside the curriculum document for now. That will, I'm not sure if you even want to put that on the web when we put the other up on the web, but.
There's no need to
yeah.
at this point in the juncture, because the curriculum's gonna stay the same until we have the summit to talk about curriculum. That's gonna be a set in a body of rules that are gonna run a little bit later. This is dealing with all the other administrative components that are associated with the program.
Carrie Hodges. And may I comment that those in the subcommittee group, I still have the document that we worked on during our subcommittee group, and so none of that work has been lost. It is still with me, and once we do, like Brian said, the summit, and yes, that's the color-coded copy.
Yeah.
I still have all that, and we will just continue to work from that, just so you know that it hasn't been lost.
Okay, so what I intended to do was to go over the document marked, it's the subchapters A through L, the clean copy with everything underlined, and go start just kind of high level through the subchapters, and beginning with the definitions, and when we get to the licensure requirements and that kind of thing, I'll have Carrie and maybe members of her team weigh in to address questions why something was moved, and I would invite and encourage and as far as I can require, the members of the work groups who did these changes to speak up and maybe address why too. Because a lot of this, most of this work was because of you and what you wanted to see and not. And then I will also address, and maybe I'll start with the organization. I'll start with the last team meeting first. The very last meeting we had of the work groups was the rule alignment group, and we met a few weeks ago and basically looked at the format and the layout of this subsection here. And we took everybody's comments in. I appreciate the ones who couldn't attend and wrote in, and the ones who attended. And so that's why the flow is the way it is of the rules. You'll see toward the end, I think in subsection G or something, we'll need to vote or discuss what we'll call the subchapter with kind of the business stuff in it. But yeah, so the way this flows, I really do appreciate everybody's help, and Ms. Lark was also especially helpful, you know, in coming up with names and the flow of this. So everybody pitched in, and so that's even to the layout of it, as far as we could, that was the work group's decisions. So anyway, high level, we tried to take out everything from the rules that didn't belong in there as far as the statute changed, things that we thought were business impediments that really didn't need to be in there. And we combined, as you'll see toward the end of the rule document, some sections that we thought were listed in each license type, like, I don't know, student complaints or records or names in advertising, and tried to combine them as much as we could and still maintain the specificity with which license type it is, but not to have it throughout the document. The hope is that this document, once it's done, will be something where you can find what you need. The general person who's looking up how to get a license, or I have a license and how can I get in trouble, or what do I need to get a license, can find it, and things aren't buried. So we've made a lot more chapters and subchapters. And sometimes we do have to separate the different license types because there are things that are very different, but there's a lot of things, probably more so, that are the same about the license types and the requirements. So when you see combined, it means we've taken records or names in advertising or some other headings, and to the best we could, made them into one and put them in that business, sort of business organization chapter. So before I get started with specifics, do you have any questions or general comments about this product?
Mr. Chairman, I do. This is David Bruce. So just to clarify, first I should say thank you for all your hard work. I mean, I know it's been hours and hours, and this document has changed immensely, so thank you for all your hard work.
I hope it's changed in a good way.
It has. It has. I do have some questions throughout here, but I think it's a great work product. But just to clarify, in Chapter M, the part that was dealing with the course material.
Okay,
and
okay.
ADM delivery methods and so forth. And the last board meeting, we voted to postpone that work until we finished the initial work. So Chapter M will not be published, and there will be no changes other than changing TEA to department and so forth?
It will be published, because it's all going to be one rule, so we have to publish them all together, because it's all one set of rules. But really, what you see in blue, and unless we've missed something, we'll go back through. But essentially, the things you see in blue and some other sort of non-substantive things that were brought from the work group won't be changed much at all. The core curriculum, unless it was changed, or you see it in blue, we're really not going to change a whole lot of that. Unless there's something, if you see it and you bring it, we have time, please do. But we were going to focus our work on the curriculum till later.
Okay, and I appreciate that. The reason I ask is because I've been on the sub-work group that kind of focused on this area, and there are some, I think, they could be good changes, but there are some meaningful changes that have been included in this document, subchapter M. And it was my understanding, again, from the last board meeting, that we agreed as a board to postpone all of them. And I think it could be, this is my opinion, it could be, let me back up. The work group spent, I don't know how many days upon days of meaningful conversation. And to echo a lot of one's opinion, there was a lot of disagreement. There was no, a lot of disagreement. And I think a lot of good work came from it. But I think it could be a better approach to either, let's just say, let's all commit for the next 2 weeks and we get to work on it and we make all the changes of that work group and let the board and the public vote on it or see it and respond to it, or we postpone, as we discussed last time, and make none of the changes. I think it could just be, it's unique to make some of them but not all of them. And that's just my opinion.
That's fine with me. We could make the changes we really need to, like TEA, the department, and if there's a statutory reference change, non-substantive. I didn't know if some of these changes, because I wasn't in on all those groups, were things that everybody had agreed on or things that really had to be done. So it's your pleasure, whatever. We could start from scratch, basically.
Kevin Knapp, as long as we don't lose what we've done, we have record of everything, because I'd hate to lose all of that.
I agree 100% to that.
And Carrie TDLR, Carrie Hodges. If there are some changes in here that are highlighted in blue, during the last board meeting, or committee meeting, I'm sorry, we did discuss to leave the majority of it alone. I know there was actually a couple of you said that, well, there are a couple of things that we would really like to see changed this round. And so what I actually did is went through and looked at all of the notes that we talked about and stuff that folks were really passionate about actually changing it, and there was actually an agreement on it, if my notes were correct, and they may have been, a few things here and there. So if there's something that you see highlighted in blue that you just like, let's just leave it alone for right now, to leave the rule as is, because I actually are the one, I included those changes. But we are completely open to putting them back to where they were and waiting until we actually get together as the curriculum group. Those were just things that that I knew as the subcommittee had the most passion for, and that y'all would want it, that y'all had actually spoke that y'all wanted to see changed. And so if we want to leave them as is, no problem with that. Just let me know, hey, it's on page this is what we'd actually like to see. Go ahead and just leave it as is, and we'll work on it once we get with the curriculum group again.
Kevin Knapp, but as I recall, we did ask for a few of those things to be included, Dave. And we all agreed upon that.
Well, that was post the board meeting, from my understanding. But some of them, part of it, again, this is what this forum's for, an open discussion. It's supposed to be streamlined where possible, and that particular subcommittee, I think we worked diligently and many, many hours to help streamline where possible. Sometimes the courses, they sound similar, but they're just too different to really streamline them as much as maybe we'd all like. But in other cases, they are very similar. And there are some, and again, they could be great changes, but they are some, in my opinion, some meaningful changes that were put into Chapter M regarding verification of the student's identity, or excuse me, removing part of that hurdle, perhaps. And Again, those are real meaningful changes to the industry, to the integrity of the industry, to what we all stand for. And I just, I don't know, I'm all for staying here for 2 weeks and getting it done. I think it's extremely important, but to put in some, but to not, and then put on hold on the others, I don't know, is the best approach, and that's just my opinion. I'm one of 11.
Yeah. Again, we have no problem removing those, what were identified as the more important from the last board meeting. And I'm not sure, because we can look back at the notes, but I am actually positive that Della and I, when we were sitting here, and you said, there was actually a couple folks that said, well, we really actually like to see some of the changes that we had done put into this, and that's why that process was taken. Again, we have no problem taking it out. But as you said, you're one of 11, so you guys tell us as a committee, what is it that you would actually like to see? We can remove it and work on it later, or we can leave it as is.
Well, I would request that we leave it the way it is right here, because that's what we talked about in the last meeting, and we had all agreed. And you're saying it was post-meeting?
Well, let's go back to the meeting. We agreed that, say you're correct, say we agreed that some changes could go in, but to not put all the changes that the subcommittee work group discussed and put some, seems like an odd approach to making this a real positive step.
I agree, so what if we put all of the changes in with, knowing that we're gonna come back in and work some more?
It would probably be easier to leave them out at this time, because there are a lot of changes on that group. I mean, there was a lot of changes. So I would actually be okay, except for TEA department things, changing things like that. We will remove everything else, and we will leave it just as those non-substantial changes, and then we will work on it together as a subcommittee afterwards. I'm completely on for that.
This is Carlos Reyna. If my memory serves me right, and it's getting weaker by the day, I'm remembering that we left curriculum, actual content topics, we were gonna put them on hold and wait on them. What I'm seeing in blue is administrative and operational, and it'll help the courses and the schools operate a little bit better without really having any impact on curriculum, because I want to change curriculum, because I echo Mr. Barrett's sentiments that I want to improve driving. But what I'm seeing is just things that'll just make it easier for the schools and course providers to provide the courses without really changing the courses.
Agreed.
Ricardo Benavides, Bruce, if you don't mind me asking, is there something specific in there that?
Yes, no, thanks.
I mean, I hate to put you in the spot.
No,
but-
please do. I mean, this is what it's for. I mean, removing the personal third-party database requirement for, I guess, adult driver's education, to me, is a meaningful change to the industry. Again, I'm not saying it's good, and I'm not saying it's bad. I think it needs to be well thought out, and for that to be one of the only real meaningful changes to go in here when it was such a hot discussion. I don't know if that's positive for the advisory committee. You've got the hot seat, I don't. Again, we all spent days upon days and hours upon hours on talking about that and a lot of other important topics.
What section is that?
Sorry, I didn't have that one marked, so forgive me.
So it does sound like if we did non-substantive changes and administrative, that would be okay with everyone. So we can certainly go back through that. And if you want to point out the ones you think are more substantive to wait, I'll certainly take that.
That is the one.
Okay,
It's
and
on page 7,
7,
Thank you,
I
Donna.
believe is what you're talking
I'm
about.
thinking we
third-party
can-
data method,
I'm
data
thinking it
method.
would be easier, Della, right, to just vote removing that? I mean, would that be
Yeah.
something that we can, yeah, and then just keep everything else. So,
So really, that's primarily
Yeah.
it for you today. If everything else seems, and we can go back through it, we will as a team, and make sure that it is
That is correct. because
administrative.
That would flow through adult driver's education, it would flow through driver safety, it flows through across the industries. And again, I'm not one to say it's good or bad. I certainly have an opinion. I want the integrity of these courses to be of the highest. without that, none of us have anything. So it needs to either apply to all or apply to none, and we just remove it and then wait and tackle that topic the next time. I think it's an extremely important topic.
Well, let's take a vote. I'll consider a motion.
Well, let's get the section right. It's, section 84.500, looks like B.
Bruce, let's get the right section and make sure that we let the department know exactly what it is that we're
Okay.
going to vote on right now.
Sorry, I have page numbers. Let me go to the section, so forgive me.
Yeah. It's in 84.500B. There's a bunch of little Bs and Cs, but it's basically 84.500B regarding the third-party data method.
That is
Is it-
correct.
Yeah. And so you would propose that we reverse that and leave that in until further discussion?
I would propose we reverse that, or to Mr. Chairman's approach, if you want to take a vote to either take it out or leave it in, that same language, which I'm really not for, would apply to driver safety as well, because it's mirrored language.
Sure. Is that easier, by the way, before we take a vote, Della and Carrie, is it easier to just remove that one item for now and then just approve what we have?
It would be
or-
easier to just remove the strike-throughs?
Sure.
So that it goes, so that then it would not appear to be
That section, so it
deleted.
is easier, right, to consider that, because otherwise I can take a vote and we just decide whether we're gonna leave it as is. and
I
certainly-
still can't find it.
Did you wanna look at it,
It's at
Kevin,
the
before we
very
make a vote?
bottom of-
Let's,
Page 7
Very bottom
is,
of page
is
7.
one place where it is.
In subchapter M.
Excellent, yeah, let's look at that.
So it would stay until further discussion. It may end up being gone, but it's not.
Absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely.
Anybody have any questions about that, comments?
I don't have a problem. Take it back out for
Got
further
it.
discussion.
Anybody, okay? I will consider a motion.
I move that we unstrike the third-party data method language and leave it as is until the work group can meet and discuss it in a little more detail.
Thank you, Carlos. We have a motion on the floor?
I'll second the
Second.
Thank you so much. Motion is second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. That'll be fine, Adele?
That's
to
fine.
just do that and make it easier. All right, thank you so much. Awesome.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Let's continue.
Okay, back to document with subsections, subchapters A through L. Basically, the definitions, we streamlined some, we removed some that no longer were in the statute. Do you have any questions? It might be easier than me going through everything to just, is there something you want to discuss from the definitions?
I'm sure the committee members have questions. I've had an opportunity to look at this great stuff, by the way. Hit it. Anyone have any questions? I guess it would be easier to address those issues specifically, as opposed to going down.
Unless you want me to read line by line, I don't think you
Right,
want
yeah,
me
we don't
to.
want to do that. Like I said.
We've already gone through it.
Yeah.
Really what you've done,
yeah.
and we mentioned it already, you've changed TA to,
A lot of
department and
that.
things like that. That's
Yeah.
pretty simple right there. Anybody have any specifics on this?
I
Questions?
think maybe it'd be best if we just go section by section, ask if there's questions by
Okay.
the section,
All right.
instead of
Excellent.
covering them all.
Subchapter B was never in the rules before, but now it's basically the Driver Training and Traffic Safety Advisory Committee plopped into the rules, taken straight from the statute. There may be some tweaking of it just to match our other advisory committee language in some of our other rules, but substantively it'll stay the same. Because historically, we always, even though it's in the statute, we do include that in the rules.
Question. I'm sorry.
Subchapter B?
Actually, on definitions, is somebody gonna go back to renumbering, to look at the numbering?
Yes, if there's misnumbering.
Yeah.
Sure.
Course provider didn't get a number at the bottom of page one.
Oh, you're right. Okay, subchapter C, the driver education schools and instructors. which starts out with the school licensure requirements, as you'll see, school responsibility, etc. We took out a lot of the verification of ownership stuff, got a little burdensome, so we'll leave it to you to provide some verification of ownership. School responsibility, I'll give you each 3 minutes, kidding. Because remember, there's plenty of time later to talk about it, but hopefully, essentially, you're okay with this.
Sure.
Motor vehicles, the main changes were to take out any, basically it's got to be properly registered and inspected and a good car to drive on the roads in Texas. In addition, the brakes, the rear view mirror, that makes it kind of unique for the driver training program, but all that other stuff that was just repetitive from TxDOT and all of that we took out.
Question, this is Nina Saint, 3 has an and after it.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a 4? Because it doesn't continue to a 4.
I don't believe so.
And
I think that was,
insurance
I think
ended
there
up-
was going to be the further list, yeah.
So
that we took out.
We took out insurance?
Yeah, I believe so, because that's required by,
By another statute?
By
that's
law,
right.
yes.
Thank you.
the driver education certificates. Carrie, you might want to weigh in. I had something about add parent taught. But we did, so. We did add the
That's
parent
what
taught.
we did,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay. So the parent taught is now included in there.
Della, what section are you on again?
In the middle of 84.43,
Thank you.
driver education certificates on page 6. Rapidly going to page 8.
Rapidly.
84.44, driver education instructor license. We did update the forms for this too. Or take this out, yeah.
Carrie Hodges. As some of y'all saw in 8443, parent taught is going to be added into that. That's what she was referring to. That's what I said. It's going to be, like it says, DE 964s shall be issued only to primary driver education schools. We're going to basically incorporate parent taught into that. So they, as you know, they weren't ever really under the same rules, and now that we all are, it needs to be incorporated. So we're going to work on the
Because it says here-
incorporation. There's a few of them in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the parent taught can request an ADE 1317?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We've got to, there's a few things that need to be taken out, because they were thrown in
Lumped
there.
together, okay.
Yeah, we have to separate them, yeah.
And it'll have the correct terminology for that, so that should our field offices be reading the exact rule, they'll see DEE and PTDE instead of just DE 964?
Yeah, and that's, and that's also a process change that we would like to actually streamline through the entire thing, is that it needs to, because we only really have, the 2 forms? And so, PT, that needs to go away, because all it does is just confuse people. What indicates what a parent-taught certificate is the fact that there's a parent-taught course number on it, not the control number. And that's what it should say. And so it's something that we're going to work on, and that's kind of like how we change the forms. Those are also our forms that we'd like to also streamline, to not only help out schools, but to help out the field offices as well. Because what is confusing is like you said, when you have so many different names of the form, and they don't really know what to look at. Because technically, there is no PT DE 964. They were made up, and so, yeah. See what I'm saying? I know. Got that look on your face?
Because how should they be to transfer between a curriculum to a curriculum?
What do you mean?
PTDE versus DE, midstream.
Well, currently you can't transfer PTDE.
Right, but you can DE.
Yes, but you can in DE, but that shouldn't be indicative of the certificate itself. I mean, what I'm saying is that if you're a parent-taught course, then you're ordering a DE 964. At the top on the control number, it doesn't need to say PT and then a control number. It just needs to see DE because it's just driver education.
Will talk.
Okay.
Because that's the only way I could indicate that at my field office last week.
And so, well, and again, that's also in restructuring the form. It doesn't need to be just in the control number. We're talking about restructuring the entire form to where it's actually
Maybe a check mark would say
it's marked off. This is a parent-taught course. Here's the course number. Because there's a lot of things, especially if we go through with some of what is going to be included in the rules, then it will have to be restructured and streamlined across all driver education, whether you're parent-taught, AMI, or licensed school.
And
Well,
what's allowed to transfer and what's allowed not.
What's allowed to transfer and what's not.
What's not allowed.
Yes.
I would love to help you with that.
I would love your help.
Help all of those field offices.
I would.
They're mighty
would.
confused.
Yes.
As you and I both know and have discussed.
They are definitely trying. It's
Yes,
difficult. It is difficult, and that's one of the reasons we want it streamlined, is that all of you that know that have called me multiple times, hey, they're not accepting this, and that's because there's so many different types that they don't know what is good and what's not, and we want to make sure that there is just less confusion for the customer and for you guys, and so that's something that we are definitely working on internally.
Question, Nina St. Carrie, was that also include public school?
That could, well, we need to look at the public schools, but because we do sell them their DE 964s, yes, we can look at that, at trying to streamline theirs to look very similar. But again, this is something that we can all actually talk about because we want your input because you guys are the ones on the front lines. So, yes, I would be completely open to streamlining that as well.
Okay, and also understanding the schools that do purchase numbers is kind of a different process than a.
Yes, than the paper certificates, yes.
Right, and
Yes.
not a perforated tear-off.
Yes, they're usually printed off, and so, but streamlining all that across the board, I think is going to be extremely helpful, and then, but by following what we have written in the rules, also going to be helpful as well, when we start that process. Moving on? We'll talk.
Thank you. Section 84.44, driver education instructor license. And that's one of the ones that does require the fingerprint.
Under A7, where it says edit to cover bases with other states.
That is a strike through, that is something for me. Thank you. And then there's the various instructors and teaching assistants, supervising teaching assistants. So I'm on page 11. Student progress. And the reason we didn't put those in the end of the section with some of the other business related is because it was only pertaining, it appeared, to just this one license type. So we left it here. It wasn't in every section. So that and the attendance and makeup
This is Carlos Reyna. On page 10, I'm noticing the application for renewal of instructor license. I don't remember under little c number 2, so there will be a criminal history review fee each time we renew now?
Not the federal one. I know that we don't charge a separate fee for that, so I can look into to that particular, because we get, from what I understand, it's called a wrap back. So for the fee that you pay initially, they update us. So I don't think you'd ever have to pay that fee again.
Okay.
Thank you. And I'll look through and make sure that that is not repetitive through.
Thank you.
Okay, student progress, section 84.45 on page 11. Do you remember what they took out?
I don't think it was a lot. I don't have.
You don't, okay.
Green copy?
Do you have your color coded?
I don't.
I do.
That's what's gonna ask.
Carlos Reyna,
So you can follow
I really
along.
don't remember
think
making
there was
any
a lot.
changes to
Yeah,
that
okay.
section.
We can look back and see, we have the infamous color-coded copy. Attendance and makeup, 84.46.
Yeah. Student progress wasn't really,
Mhm.
it wasn't really touched.
And student conduct policy, 8447. Subchapter D, parent taught, driver education. I think did you cut that down? Yeah. Or fleshed it
actually-
out? You fleshed it out. There wasn't a whole lot.
Yeah,
there.
and those, Carrie Hodges, those of you that know, there wasn't a lot of rules that had to do with parent taught, and so we incorporated just most of them, cleaned up a little bit of the language, and put them in here. There wasn't a lot, they weren't very substantial, so it was fairly easy to put in.
It's the first time these rules have ever been in the same book as the other rules. So hopefully it's easier to compare the two and see the similarities.
Question. Never mind, I got it.
And parent taught submission on page 13. $84.52, cancellation of department approval.
Yeah, in reference to parent taught only.
Okay. Do you have a question?
No, no.
Okay.
No, ma'am, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Moving on to subchapter E.
Carrie,
Hold
this
on.
is
Oh,
Blake.
sorry.
Garrett, I have a question on page 12 at the bottom, section D. We say a student may only transfer the first 6 hours of classroom phase between the parent-taught program and a licensed or public driver education school. But then we say all 32 hours of classroom instruction must be taught under one program. A little confused if we're able to transfer 6 hours, but then it all has to be done under one program. Maybe I'm just misunderstanding.
And we can look at rewording it differently, but that's where we had discussed, because as you know,
It's all the same.
right now, parent taught, you can't transfer anything with parent taught. At TDLR, we're not a fan of a student losing education. We all know that the first 6 hours of a driver education course is essentially the same information. It's Module 1 traffic laws, goes over the handbook. I mean, I don't have to go over it. Y'all know what it is. And because that student took that first 6 hours, they shouldn't have to lose that first 6 hours if they decide to go to a licensed school after. Again, it would be a business decision for the school to accept them or not. Has nothing to do with us. Again, we could look at the rewording of it. I think we were trying to make sure that it made a little bit of sense, but I could see the separation, and so that's why we have the additional eyes. But yes, we'll look at that, Blake, to
Okay.
make sure we can explain that a little bit better.
Thank you.
Thanks. Moving on to safety schools, subchapter E on page 14. And you'll see along the way too that we took out, the fees are all in their own section toward the end. I know that you're used to seeing the fees probably scattered throughout, but you knew that. Page 15, driving safety school and course provider responsibilities, 8461. Course provider license requirements, page 16, 8462. Skip over that. I'm on page 18, 8463, Uniform Certificate of Course Completion for Driving Safety or Specialized Driving Safety Course.
Excuse me, this is David Bruce. I have a question on
Uh-huh.
this. I know we combined, or you combined, and you did a great job, a lot of definitions throughout here to make things more clear. On 84.63A9, we removed, or it has been removed, the language regarding not allowing certificates to be emailed or faxed. Can you kind of walk me through the thought process? And I've got a few questions to understand how to manage that piece.
You know, to require it to be mailed?
Yes.
Okay.
So previously, the language, it had this exact language, but it said the equivalent commercial delivery method specifically does not allow emails and/or facsimiles. So since that was removed, was it removed on purpose and then?
Okay, if some of the work group members who were in on that could help weigh in too, that would be great, because I was not personally in on those meetings, that meeting. Unless it was something that was decided.
9 is actually the same as it was prior.
Yes, I agree, but we deleted from the prior. I'm
What
sorry.
did it read? I can't remember. Do you have the old version?
Yes,
Do you need to
We-
see the old version?
Yeah, I do remember talking about that.
Hold on one moment. So, forgive me, but in the previous version, under the definitions section, happened to be on page 3, it was number 12. Page
Mail and
4,
commercial delivery.
number 12.
On page 4.
Are you looking at a definition, or are you looking at 8463?
Well, the definition, they kind of go hand in hand. The definition on the former document that's
Definition
published.
of what?
I'll just read it to you. It says,
Okay.
mail or commercial delivery. First-class U.S. mail or equivalent commercial delivery service that deliver no sooner than the following day successful course completion, period. Electronic delivery such as email or facsimile is not acceptable as a commercial delivery service.
I believe I remember the risk of causing stir. Blake Garrett. So I believe it was because statute says prevents email currently, we wanted to make the rule more flexible so that if statute does change in the future, it wouldn't require a rule change. However, it's still completely dependent on statute changing.
In the statute,
And I don't believe there's anything in progress to change the statute. It was just to make our rules more flexible moving forward if statutes supported it. I believe that's what it was.
Right, because I don't see a definition of mail in the original rules that I have, effective 9/1 of 2015.
Bill, I apologize, I don't have a date on mine. These were published September 1st, 2015.
current
No,
rules.
This is the current.
it's this one right here. It's on the original rules.
Hmm.
It was in 84-100. It's this one, mail or commercial delivery.
This
Ms.
is the
Kevin,
original rules right
I
here.
do recall talking about it, and we all agree that commercial delivery was in fact electronic. I mean, I think we all agree.
I think we did, but I think they were gonna check on
gone.
legal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there was conversations, checking with legal, checking with the court clerks
Yeah.
and judges to, again, put it, again, for open forum here, put yourself in the court clerk's position. They deal with hundreds and hundreds of these a day. They can all look so different. I know when our particular course was approved and others that I've spoken to in the industry, we originally had the uniform certificate, as we all know, that we had to purchase, so the court knew exactly what it looked like. When that document, the piece of paper went away, there was a lot of rules and regulations placed on us, which is perfect, saying, here's what the document must say, here's how it must look. By the way, here's the paper that it must be printed on, so if someone tries to make a copy, the copy will say void on it. Again, to give the judges and the court clerk something to rely on versus, I mean, we even went through, Reginald, looking at you, if you can remember, and Kathy, we talked about, the font size, the color of the ink, the darkness of the ink. It was in great detail, and to be quite honest, I didn't quite understand the great detail until I kind of stepped back and put myself in the court clerk's shoes when there's a line of 35 people, and they're all handing a document saying, I've satisfied my requirement, and it's their job to accept it or not. So I'm all for moving everything forward. Just kind of curious, wanted to bring this up. Did we get the feedback from the court clerks, and what are their thoughts?
So would you propose to put the definition back in to define that it's first-class mail or equivalent?
Again, for the, and
I can understand that.
yeah, I mean, I look at this from a lot of different ways. When we were put on this advisory committee, it was not looking at it from your company's perspective. Brian, you were really clear with me. It's like, look at it from the public's perspective, the court's perspective, and the industry's perspective. I mean, we're here to make people safer. And I really am a firm believer that driver safety training done correctly makes people safer. But I'm also a really firm believer that if the courts don't trust the integrity of the courses, they're not going to give that as an option anymore. They're just not. I mean, why would they? And so that's my former comment about that, make sure we know the person taking the course, do our best efforts. But this is making sure that the piece of paper that they're turning into is a legitimate approved document. So, I mean, unless we have the feedback from the court clerks and we have some other rules in place of how we're going to do this, I would propose we put that language back.
Okay, I mean, the statute does say by U.S. mail or commercial delivery, so we could define that, and we could definitely put that back in to specify that email is not acceptable as commercial delivery.
But I disagree with that.
Oh, okay.
I don't know that that is true.
Yeah, I think what we need to do is take a step back, think about the folks who are involved in it. Number one, see if there's any court decisions relating to whether or not email constitutes commercial. Also, try to identify if there's a not commercial, but a court clerk association. There's an association for everything these days. Getting a question to them and seeing how what their view of the consistency of the documents coming to them. But I think we can do a little bit of background research on that. So we will endeavor to do that on our end. And we also have a meeting with the executive director for the court association or agency, OCA, in August. This will be something else I can put on the table when I meet with him. Also to talk about that.
Carrie Hodges, I do know that, and I'm sure you know, even in the law, it states that I don't know where I just put it, to explore options for electronic delivery, because there are a lot of court systems right now that are actually taking submissions by electronic delivery, but it doesn't specify whether it's an electronic certificate printed out or if it's actually electronically delivered to them from you. And so, but I agree with Brian, it's definitely something that we could look at.
Glenn Winningham, I believe the intent of that statute was for the state agency, the regulatory agency, to research and develop its own system to be reporting to the courts, not individual course providers reporting to the courts.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Carlos Reyna here. I do believe that if we did, that's been on the books forever, and nothing has ever been done with it. Okay, and if we could do some research, since we're having to submit our information as far as driving safety to the TDLNR anyways, if there was a way for it to come from you all instead of us, then the courts, I think, wouldn't have a problem accepting that.
And Glenn Winningham, in regards to what Mr. Knapp said, about email being commercial delivery, if, obviously, we all know that there's, 60 driver safety providers? I'm not sure, 60, 61. If the courts start being requested by all 61 providers to send emails to them, every one of the emails is going to be different. I'm sure that the fields are going to be different. They all look different. At least the certificates are a little bit more uniform. So it does create a lot of confusion for the court systems. Now, sure, some of them may want to accept it, but I believe that a majority of them would not. So having a state uniform system for completion, like what it speaks out in statute, that would be something I think they would be interested in.
Yeah, I think, Carrie Hodges, I think it, as you all know, you've seen, is that we're all for technical advances. I know the statute itself is 1001.057. And we can definitely take a look at that, because as you have again seen, we're almost to our year mark, but we've actually made a lot of leaps and bounds since the program has come over, and so it's definitely something that we can look at. I'm all for researching this and seeing what we can do. Did you put to add that language back in? Okay, great.
Okay, I'm on page 19, 8464, driving safety instructor license requirements. And all the different kinds of instructors, page 20. Through middle of 22, page 22. Okay, subchapter F, the drug and alcohol awareness programs and instructors, 84.70. Page 24, section 84.71, school and course provider responsibilities. Page 25, instructor license requirements, section 84.72.
Glenn Winningham, I do have a question about that. Number 4 is obviously all new language in there. Let me preface it with, I am definitely in favor of that language. The beginning part of that, alternatively, the applicant may submit a copy of a current alcohol and drug offender education program instructor license, and then it further goes to define the Texas DSHS offender ed counselors. Is the first sentence implying that those are Department of State Health Services alcohol and drug offender education program instructors? Or is it implying that any alcohol or drug offender education program instructor can be licensed?
Cindy Jo Newland. That is gonna have to be changed because the offender ed program is coming to TDLNR. So
This is true too.
we have to strike that language anyway and correct it with the change of the offender ed program.
It's slated to come here in
Yeah, in
2019.
2017.
2017.
Yeah, I think the deadline's 2019.
We have till
The deadline,
2019
but
to
yeah.
effectuate the
Yeah,
whole
right.
change.
Mhm.
but-
Right.
But they've already started moving them over and creating the program. So when we wrote that in, it wasn't,
So
and
we
we were
will-
licensed under TDS.
And you'll still be, I mean, that program is gonna be in phase 2. The first group
Right.
of 7 are coming over on October 3rd. And then some year and a half after that, we'll start
After
bringing
that.
others. So we've got time on that.
Thank
So-
you for that, though.
Yeah, no, yeah. I was just wanting to make sure that it was like a state-approved or the DSHS approved instructors, because there are many curriculums out there. Some of them are good, some of them are not.
Right.
So,
That was the implication.
Carlos Reyna here. I believe when we were talking about driver education a little earlier and licensing individuals, I think we changed that from 5 years to 3. Okay, and I'm looking at little A, number 1, that one still says 5 years. And I thought if we were going to do 3 on the other, we should do 3 here.
Okay, moving to the bottom of page 25 to the top of page 26, I do need, if you want to vote, weigh in, or just kind of leave it this way until the very end. But we had lumped, grouped, some of these sort of orphan sections that we took from the various other sections relating to business, advertising, and put them in a new subchapter that needs a name. Right now, it's subchapter G, General Business Practices / General Business Operations / General Administrative Requirements, or check the box Other. You get the picture. And so these were some recommendations from our rule alignment group. We can leave it this way, but the intent is for this to encompass business-related practices. So be thinking of what maybe the best heading might be. But what I did was take certain sections such as names and advertising, record keeping, and a few others, and we either combined them if there was more similarities than differences, and we could easily specify it. You could easily tell which ones pertain to which schools. Or, for example, in the record keeping in 8481, to me, not being as familiar as everybody else, but it seemed like there was enough differences among the different license types for these record-keeping requirements, we left them the same. It doesn't mean later we pare it down further, but it seemed to me there was enough differences. And if people who aren't used to yet looking at the new set of rules and where do I go to find this, might be easier for them to just look at this list and see. But I'll take your advisement on that. So that, it's not saying there's no similarities, but we left them kind of intact, but in one subchapter, one heading. So, that being said, I'm starting with 8480, page 26, names and advertising. Seemed like the general theme was you can't conduct business under a name that's deceptively similar, and you got to use the name that you were licensed in. Branch schools for driving ed shall conduct business using the same name as the primary school. And for safety, the multiple classroom locations shall meet the requirements of this subsection 2. Okay, record-keeping requirements, again, those should be pretty much similar from the original rules with some tweaks from the work group, but I've kept them intact by license type.
Excuse me, Della, this is David Bruce. Going back to the names and advertising,
Mhm.
the language is almost identical to the previous version, but it was removed domain names.
Mhm.
And I'm curious as to why, and maybe it's just covered on page 1 of the new rules, where we say advertising includes meta tags and search engines. Was that the logic?
That was the thought behind it, just to say that it does encompass any internet advertising or domain names you might have. But if the thought is we need to put that in, we certainly can. But again, I'm kind of a purist when it comes to rules, and I know different attorneys are different, but if it's in the statute normally and it's defined and it can be found, I believe to not repeat. But sometimes it's necessary to, you know, so.
If that's y'all's position, I'm fine. I just want a clarification.
Carrie Hodges, yes. When we're doing let's say we were doing a review, and this was our thought process when we explained it, as if I'm looking at it and you say, well, it's not in this rule, I said, yeah, but it's covered in this one. If it's covered somewhere and we can actually speak to it and we have a leg to stand on, then that was the, as Del said, with the non-repeating part of it, that it is covered. It would give us, again, a leg to stand on. We wouldn't have to repeat it elsewhere.
Okay, thank you for that.
Okay, record keeping.
Nina is saying under driver education schools A,
Mhm.
the last sentence, does that belong in this section? It says there may be announced or unannounced on-site visits at each school each year.
If there is, that would belong under the inspections. We don't call them on-site visits really anymore in this set of rules. We have a section now for inspections. So no, I will take that out. And again, in safety schools, near the bottom of page 27, I will take that line out about there may be announced or unannounced inspections at each school in A. And on page 28, in drug and alcohol awareness schools, I'll take that out too. In A.
Ma'am, in that same paragraph, it still references TEA in the line above.
It's a test.
And you passed.
With flying colors.
One of the very few times.
And there, I've seen some other TEA references, so,
Yeah, right above that.
yeah.
Authorized representatives of T.
Student enrollment contracts, section 84.82 on page 28. Again, I left those under one section, but separate, because there was enough, in our opinion, different about them for now. We want people to be able to find it.
Can you speak on that? About removing Carrie Hodges. It has also been brought up, and again, we're not making any decision today, and so make sure everybody took their blood pressure medicine this morning. We're considering actually removing student enrollment contracts out of the rules. We'll put something in there that says that you have to have a student enrollment contract, but to us, this is an administrative business decision on how you actually structure that enrollment contract. And if there are changes made to it, we're basically held to this standard. So if it's in the rule and we do an inspection and you haven't followed the letter to this, you're susceptible to being cited for not following the rule. And so again, it's something that we are talking about. No, it's not a final decision. We're looking for comment and weigh in on yes, no, maybe. We're made no decisions today though, but this has been brought up and it's something that we are looking at.
Just food for thought.
Yes.
Question, Nina Saint, under B2, the student's driver's license number, under driver education, unless they're coming from out of state or another program, they don't have that. I thought we had a discussion of maybe removing that.
Carrie Hodges, I think that's why they just put if applicable.
Well, unfortunately, we end up with a parent's driver's license number.
Oh,
We
okay.
end up with multiple questions because it's like you get multiple questions if you don't have a frequently asked question. It just stops the process when you have to respond to everybody that's enrolling. Don't worry about that, because they think they should have one because you asked for it.
Exactly.
Okay, so you would like to just take it out, or would you like to put out of state, or just?
I'll just take it
Take it
out.
out. Any discussion?
This
because
is
it
Carlos
does
Reyna.
go ahead.
I would just, if there's an adult that we're signing up for behind the wheel, wouldn't they have an instruction permit, which would be our learner license, which would be a license number?
Yes, they would. So on the adult one, I could see that, but on the teen,
Yeah.
although most people have the same contract.
Yeah, that's why I'm thinking the if applicable could apply, because my contract is not gonna have it in there, because it's not applicable. It's a teenager.
Carrie Hodges, so just more food for thought. This is exactly why we were thinking about removing it.
Good thought.
It's a business decision for you guys. I mean, for Nina's folks, this may be easy. For Carlos, for you, it may be easy. And it also just, it could be, demographic. You may have students that are, they're in your major metropolitan areas that do come from out of state that already do have a learner license or a permit or even a driver license from another state. And then you have the ones that are, like me, I grew up in East Texas and, you drove, but you didn't, we won't talk about that, but you know where I'm getting at. And so again, this is why we recommend taking this out, or actually we want to discuss removing this because this is a business decision. It's administrative. It's not really regulatory. So we will accept comments on this. You can email me and we will discuss it with our groups also.
Carlos, right here down towards the bottom, then I'd like to know what number 15, I thought we had removed that to actual instructional costs. I thought we'd removed that language. And if it's still in there, and if it is, what does that mean? What are you trying to find out?
Carrie Hodges, and it may have also been removed. We're still going through and looking through at what was done in the color-coded copy, and if it basically also translates over here. And so if it's been removed from here, then yes, we'll remove it from this.
And this is Brian Francis. One thing to keep in mind on that number 2, the B2, the student's driver's license number, think about our inspector that goes out and that section is left blank. And so right now the rule says, if it's applicable. And so the school says, well, it's not applicable. Okay. This person does have an out-of-state license. We're going to write you up. It's just such a gray area and such a non-substantive violation for someone to have, that they didn't put the person's learner's permit on there, or they left it blank. So when you're looking at this, think about if there's an inspection done and that rule is violated, is that substantive? And that would be a non-substantive violation. It didn't change the world one bit. It was just you didn't complete a line on a piece of paper. So we want to try to remove all those non-substantive elements that don't add value to the contract in those moments.
Carrie Hodges, and to piggyback off that, and speaking from my former life, a student actually wouldn't have most of them would have a driver license anyway. They would have a learner license or learner permit, depending on what it's considered. So a driver license indicates they have a driver license, not a learner license. So even contextually, it's incorrect. So again, I agree with Brian. It's something that we are definitely going to look at.
Well, that supports my thinking that number 15 doesn't need to be in there at all, because we state up above all tuition fees and other charges, so I don't know why we need to break it down.
Sure.
Okay.
I've got it marked.
Thank you.
So, yeah, at a minimum, you could say they have to have an enrollment contract, or they have to keep it for X amount of years, maybe include the information about file a complaint with us, you know, so that the school is regulated if there's a problem, and then obviously in the statute, there's a requirement for the refund policy. But a lot of this stuff just seems like it's pretty onerous, and it would be onerous for us if one thing was missing, the signature of somebody or something like that. So our
Carrie?
thought is to maybe take the enrollment contracts out at some point, except for some bare bones, you have to have a contract. I'm on page 31, 84, 83, student complaints. I did combine those from the different drivers ed and driving safety. '84 is new. Apparently, it came in one of the work groups to have a notification of our name, mailing address, and information. Okay. Subchapter H.
Question, I'm sorry, Nina Saint. Under the new section, the notification of public interest, again, as we sign things multiple times, here it looks like we have to tell them multiple times. Isn't it on their, if we have it on their enrollment contract, completion certificate, isn't that enough? Here we're
Carlos
gonna put
Reyna,
it on each registration form, application, written contract. We're gonna display a sign. We're gonna
I'm
put it in
reading
the bill for service.
on that, I'm reading the or,
It
so I
says
think we
or.
get the option.
Okay. Thank you.
Which does contradict what's in the enrollment contract, though. I mean, it does require some information about us, too. So, food for thought there. But for here, there is a choice. You don't have to have a sign and in the forms and on the bill.
I believe we had removed it from the contract language. I think that's on the form that this hadn't been all transferred over, I think,
Mhm.
because of this.
This is Blake Garrett. Could someone, I wasn't part of that work group, why are we adding this?
Adding,
This section 8484? Seems to me like we already have coverage on this.
We do. I was not at that work group myself, so it looks like we could add it in some required form that's already there. If the enrollment contracts ultimately go, obviously it wouldn't be there, but we can double check and see where it's required to be. This sounds like just extra, maybe just extra.
if I'm not mistaken, Carrie Hodges, if I'm not mistaken, it's actually in line with a lot of our other programs that we regulate. Is basically you're required to notify the public who they can go to for a complaint. But again, we can look at if it's already included in another section, then like we just spoke about, we're trying to get rid of repetitiveness. And so if it's already included in another section, then we can remove it.
Because the enrollment contracts wouldn't be public.
Yeah, this is Brian. I don't know if it's bad to have it in one place here, because it's basically saying, you gotta tell people that TDR regulates you and give the information about them, and here are the 3 ways you can tell them. If it was left just up in one, and then it was left in the third one and the second one, the practitioner may believe that they have to do all of them. This is the only place, and when Carlos pointed out that there's an or, up there, if we just left it in the contract section, it would say, include notice of who you're regulated by. If we said on the sign section, include notice who you're regulated by, it would actually look like you have to provide notice in all 3 of those places. This is the only place where it gives you the ability to see, here are the 3 avenues, and you can choose which one. So I definitely want to put that in for food for thought for you guys.
Yeah, that supports why I think we need to remove it from the contract, because we can have the option if we want to put it in the contract.
So should line number, Blake Garrett, should line number 1 have an or at the end of it as well?
Yes, I wrote that in.
Okay, cool.
It's actually
Well,
just
then-
the
Not
one or.
necessarily.
The one or constitutes all this.
Yeah.
So you've
It's
got
an
1,
understood
2,
or. But I see what you're saying, but.
All right, if it's
yeah.
one of those 3,
Yeah, it's one of the 3.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Not to say another question, 8483 student complaints, where we have to give them a grievance procedure and tell them about y'all, current department telephone number and email address, and then 8484, notification of public interest, information, and participation. Should those 2 be combined?
I have noted. Carrie Hodges, yes, I have noted to actually look at those and see if we can actually combine, because they are essentially saying the same thing.
Except for the notification of who we are, and then I think one is an internal grievance process. And so that's still, I think what we're saying is that every school needs to have a mechanism by which a student can resolve some concerns, and every student needs to know that you can go to TDR if you got a problem. But I think it's talking about an internal grievance mechanism as well as the external requirement to notify. So just keep that in mind that it may not.
All right. Under 8483C, the front of each uniform certificate of course completion shall contain the department complaint contact information. So that, I think the other is internal, and then that one follows for the department.
Right.
We will look at that.
Blake Garrett, I have another just question from an organization. Is 8483 and 8484 specific to drug and alcohol awareness schools? Or is it applicable to all school types?
No, it's applicable to all school types. The drug and alcohol awareness schools section there was
So
the
that
tail end of the
ends-
enrollment contract.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then this is small then, but in 8484 it says it just refers to driver education, does not refer to driver safety.
On which one?
8484, the first sentence. So we might want to add driver safety.
Oh, okay. All license types, safety. Thank you.
Good.
Okay, subchapter H, the rule alignment group believed that facilities and equipment was sufficiently different than, say, business practices to have its own subchapter, so that's why it has its own subchapter. And I believe there was enough similarities to combine them from the different license types, education, safety, and drug and alcohol awareness. Okay. Inspections is new. It dovetails a lot with our current, the way we inspect in other program types. Subchapter I. So there's periodics, or when a complaint could be, if a complaint were filed. We tried to make it as simple as possible. Which one? Oh, yeah, in 84.101, we will be taking out the fees referenced in B and C. There is no more of the inspection fee.
And that's 101?
84.101, when it talks about the initial inspections, on page 32, there was a fee to pay the department for the inspection itself, and even a follow-up inspection. So it's actually in F as well, on page 33.
Excuse me, this is David. For section 84-100 and 84-101, and actually 84-102, following Blake's question a few moments ago, do those three sections pertain only to driver's education or also to driver safety? Just only driver, okay.
Just for right now. Currently, I don't think that it's written that driving safety schools are required to be inspected. Not to say that we would never do that. Right now, we haven't looked at that portion of it because there are, as you know, if we look at driving safety schools, including multiple classroom locations, we're looking at stuff that that's a massive amount of numbers.
Yes.
And so right now, this is concentrating on driver education. Does that mean that we're never going to look at driving safety? No, that's not what that means. It just means for right now, we're just going to look at driver education and then figure out the driving safety portion of it. It's the easiest way to say it.
Okay, thank you.
But we initially approved the location of the safety.
Yes,
Yeah.
I mean, we do an approval of
Yeah.
the location. We don't actually go out and do a physical inspection, though.
Carrie and Della, we're going to be taking a break.
Okay.
A small little break, if you all don't mind. I think it's needed. Let's do that. Let's take a quick little 10-minute break.
Awesome.
Oh, thank you. Section 8490.
What page?
Well, mine is 32. I'm not real sure what.
31R,
Okay,
subsection, chapter H.
I got it. Fill it
Under
there.
C,
Okay.
no, E, I'm sorry, I can't read with my glasses on or off. But it has in the next to last sentence, any facility that contains an adult-oriented business or facility that is required to exclude patrons because of age will not be approved.
Yeah, that is new.
Which letter?
It is E, it starts off on 31R and goes down to 32. It's on subchapter H, and that is new.
That was taken, I think, straight from everything, the other rules.
Now it applies to actually,
Because we talked about that yesterday.
We did.
Or something, I don't know. Does it?
Carrie Hodges, what's your thoughts on that? I think the reason that we, well, it was actually taken from what was already in there, already in the rule, but facility that contains an adult-oriented business or facility that is required to exclude patrons because of age.
And the second part is or facility that is required to exclude patrons because of age, such as ICU rooms exclude patrons because of age. I don't think that would be.
An ICU excludes, well,
Normally underage aren't allowed in ICU unless special instances.
Mary Winston, and I'm sorry, I'm chewing. I think we're talking, Nina, more about the adult venue that you have to be 21 to get into.
or a bar.
They can't be held in
Or a
bars.
bar.
Yeah, and that was well, like I said, and that's something that was taken that was already in the rule.
It was decided to leave that in, but
Okay.
it was from the other rule, and that does speak to minimum age to get in
Right,
a
I-
facility.
Just didn't want it to
Now,
skirt
does that
over.
exclude any classrooms? Anybody have any classrooms where they would lose a classroom because of that?
I think that's in the current rules.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
It wouldn't be like a restaurant that actually sold a drink. It might be a
Right.
bar.
Sure.
Um,
All right.
Carrie Hodges, basically what we're saying is you can still go to Joe's Crab Shack, you just can't go to Hometown Saloon.
Which is what it was
Yes.
before.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, inspections on page 32. This is new, but we've kept it similar to how we inspect a lot of our other facilities.
Could you explain, this is Carl Schwaner, could you explain under inspection general, subsection A, the last sentence, manages on best practice techniques? What do y'all mean by that?
Well, a lot of what our investigators or inspectors do is educate, instead of always maybe just going out and checking off a list and going away. They might share some information if they see something that maybe subpar or maybe could be done better based on what we see. It's just sharing of information, really.
Okay.
This is.
Carrie
Blake.
Hodges.
Or,
Yes,
go ahead.
Well, just also to piggyback off that is that, and what Della said, that's 100% correct. We, especially in education and exam, our inspectors, we are not there just, like you said, to check off a list. We want to know that when you go in, if you have questions on the rules, or if you have questions about, we get this a lot, why did I get this DPS handbook year instead of this one? We want to be able to go out and educate. We are educators foremost, and we are inspectors secondary. And that's what our inspectors have been charged to do, and that's something that they really take to heart, because we want to make sure that when we're out there, we're not the, aha, I got you type of mentality. We want to, hey, we're here. Tell us what questions you have. And that's what we're getting a lot. The guys were actually just in McAllen, and they had a lot of really, really good questions. And they were actually able to educate some of these schools on stuff that they weren't aware of. And it was actually a really good process and a good experience for them. Yes, Blake.
This is Blake Garrett. I think kind of weird that that's a rule, because are we supposed to enforce it if y'all don't do that?
There you go.
I mean, it's great, and I don't, if you guys want to keep it there, it's fine, but it seems like it's not a rule.
We could take it out, or we could put may instead of will.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's up to y'all, but
I see, I get your point.
I think it's awesome and everyone should continue to do it, but maybe advertise it somewhere else.
Mhm. Okay, again, in 84-101 at the bottom of page 32, the fees for the inspections will be taken out, that language. And on page 33, in little f.
Question
That-
under, this is Nina saying, under 84-100, under E, driver education schools shall display in the establishment in a conspicuous place clearly visible to the public. Can we? I had this discussion with some individuals that came and visited our school location. We don't post anything on our walls except a branding for our school. Can we just display it and take out in conspicuous place clearly visible to the public? Because we're talking about a handwritten document, and some of us just don't put up handwritten documents.
It's up, open to discussion. Again, this was similar to how we do other inspections. If someone from staff wants to comment on that, feel free.
Carrie Hodges, I just have a question. My question would be, what would be the harm in actually displaying it? And it's just an open discussion question, but that would be, just playing the devil's advocate, this is something that's consistent through every other program that we have. If you go to any barber or cosmetology school, you'll come and they will actually have displayed their most recent inspection, and it is a handwritten, and then we've had additional staff to comment.
Hi, Ray Pizarro, Director for the Education Examination Division. Carrie's absolutely right, and I don't think we're saying here that just because we're doing it for other industries, this is how it needs to be done. We're saying that we're trying to make sure that the consumer, again, back to some of our goals that the agency is trying to do, is to educate the consumers. We want them to know these are the establishments we regulate. This is a regulated establishment by TDLR, and this is the last inspection that has happened, and this is how they've passed with flying colors, or these are the things that they need to fix. So it needs to be said, and I think the consumer needs to be aware of how the establishment is performing. I mean, just like when you go to a restaurant and eat the food, you need to make sure that you're not going to get food poisoning. You want to make sure the establishment is complying with the laws and rules.
Thank you.
It's up to you guys. It's open.
Anybody care to comment on that?
Obviously, if
I
the
guess
place was in violation, you would also receive a notice of violation and have the opportunity to
I guess
dispute
maybe
that.
we should put up for vote.
Sure, absolutely. Now, Nina, your concern is you just don't want it to be displayed.
Yeah, I mean, we just don't display anything. I mean,
Sure.
our walls are blank, and so in this office that we don't put up anything now, and I know we had a discussion about elevators.
Sure.
The elevators now don't have to display the document from DLNR. It can be located in the office. So can we have that opportunity? That we have it, you ask for it, we'll show it to you.
Absolutely, Nina. Let's go ahead and take a vote on it. I think a motion is in order.
Chairman, can I ask one clarification, please?
absolutely, absolutely.
So I'm sorry, I just want to...
Before we vote,
Yeah,
yes.
so apologize. So, right now, the way the rules are written, where must this report be displayed, so I can understand Nana's concern.
Conspicuous place.
Carrie Hodges, in a conspicuous place clearly visible to the public.
Okay, thank you.
So, I'm okay with displaying it in the establishment, a copy of the establishment's most recent inspection report issued by the department. It's that conspicuous place clearly visible to the public.
Sure. I'll consider a motion.
Course providers don't have the public visiting. How will they display theirs?
Right.
This is for driver education.
Yes, driver education.
Yeah, it's just,
So. then do
because
you
right now we're
show
not,
doing-
we're not inspecting course providers and we're not inspecting, driver education, driver safety in
So
schools.
how are we equitable if you're inspecting driver education schools, but you're not inspecting driving safety schools, and you're not inspecting drug and alcohol driving awareness programs, but we have to have that in a conspicuous place, but they don't get anything up at all?
Again, this is something, as far as inspections are concerned, they are required for driving education schools. They're not required for the driving safety schools or course providers or DADAPT. It's, again, this is not something that say that they never will be. As of right now, they are not currently required, though.
That's statutorily?
I would have to look in statute.
It talks about on-site visits.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly, exactly. Yeah, and that's, we also, we have to be aware, because if we talk about doing driving safety schools, that also opens up multiple classroom locations. And I'm sure you all are aware of how many multiple classroom locations there are. So we're supposed to go out and inspect every single one of those as soon as you send it in, and basically make it to where you can't hold a class until we come out and inspect. I mean, we have to always be careful what we ask for. And so statutorily, there is, we can look it up. I think you have to be inspected prior to being open. Prior to actually starting that is, if I'm not mistaken, that's where it is in the statute, I cannot tell you.
May I ask something else?
Sure.
How, I know we were shorthanded on Chloe's team in getting all those certificates, or those licenses out. So how often are we getting those inspections done?
On the inspections, we're looking at doing at least once a year. And because what it says is that they have to do, they have to be inspected prior to opening. As far as periodic
Right.
inspection, we're looking at once a year.
Okay, so, and that sheet of paper is a single sheet of paper?
Mm-hmm.
It's not the 6 or 7 sheets of paper that Richard Lusby checked off?
No. As a matter of fact, we're going to be,
I got
No,
in
you're
my
fine.
mind
Well, I
what's
just
in
love
my
the sound
file.
effect. I was just going off the sound
Sorry,
effect.
I teach theater too.
what we actually plan on doing is posting the inspection checklist online once we have a final approval, so you'll know what we're looking at.
Okay.
Once we get to that point. And then the inspection process is actually quite simple. It's quite fast. It's not like you would for a barber and cosmetology school. It's actually a little bit easier to go through. But again, this is for especially public awareness and public
Sure.
notice.
So let me think out loud for you.
Sure.
And why I'm balking, if you will.
Sure.
Because I've got a great big wide, you've been there, or maybe you drove by, but I wasn't there, so you didn't come in. I've got a great big wide front window, glass window at my establishment. And so if I post for a year, maybe it's a duplicate form that, like Richard's form, just had to do that for you again, that I got the yellow copy that's got the carbon on it, in a great big bright West Texas sunshiny window for a year, it's going to look like yuck by the time you come back again and I get to pull it down. And I don't roll that way. Everything I've got on my walls is aligned and framed.
Exactly. And so if when we were out actually doing those inspections, we stopped at a couple of the barber and cosmetology schools, and what they do is they put it next to their license. So you have your license where it needs to be displayed, and then you have your inspection that it needs to be displayed. Now, can I say that it can't be like Nina said, which is it can be displayed in the office, just like TDLR? That's actually a decision that you guys can make. I mean, if I'm a consumer and I come in and I say, you know what, I want to know that you were inspected, and you can show them the inspection, again, that's something that you guys need to decide whether to put in the rule. The story that I told is that last year I went to New York City, and if you've ever been to New York City, when you go there, you will always see either an A, B, or a C in the window of every single restaurant. And that lets the public know if it's an A, you're good. If there's a B, it's not bad. If it's a C, don't eat there. And that's what we're looking at. We want our consumers to know that you guys have, you've been inspected, that TDLR is doing the regulation portion of their job, and you guys are good to go to. I mean, if you walk into a driver education, or let me rephrase, if you walk into a cosmetology school and you see a list this long of violations, do you really want your child to go there? That's kind of what we're looking at.
So can my
That is-
conspicuousness be, I can scan it and put a link on my website?
That would be something that we
'Cause
have
I don't
to,
let
that you
anybody
guys would
walk
have to.
in my office. I've got my locked files in there too.
And that's fine. Like I said, this is something that as the committee that you guys will have to decide on. It doesn't we don't need to make this decision today.
Okay.
We still have a long way to go. Send some feedback or like Kevin said, put it up for a vote. We're here for that portion of it. That's what you guys are here for.
We've discussed it. Let's put it up for a vote.
Absolutely.
Well,
Just go ahead. I'm going to consider then a motion for Chapter 1 Inspections 84-100, and that's number E. We want to remove in a conspicuous place. So we're still going to have the sign, it's just we decide if we want to leave it conspicuous or not, but just don't want it to be, I think, the law of the land. So I'll consider the motion.
well, Cindy, if you and I are the only ones that have a difficulty with it, should we even vote?
I personally would like to learn more and not vote. I don't know this enough. I don't know the situation enough. I'd personally like to go talk to some more people that this would impact.
Okay.
So
Well,
I
and
would either abstain or.
Keep in mind, this is the free look. So
Sure,
there is
sure.
nothing binding about what we put out there. It is going to be the free look for people to weigh in. Obviously, if it's not there, it's going to be difficult for people to know they can weigh in on it. If it's in there, then you're going to have a group of people saying, I don't want that, or this is how it can be improved. So including it in there allows for the conversation and the discussion to take place, and you have more information. You're still going to be in a position to drive the dialogue when we come back to the next meeting and say, guys, now do we want to publish the language for public comment to include that or not? So
You
if it's
could-
in there, they'll talk
Yeah,
about it. If it's
I'll-
not, they may not know to talk about it.
You could even say, at some point, make it available to someone. Maybe it's someone in your office, there's a sign that says, upon request, so that it itself is not there, but upon request, someone could look at it,
Or your rating score, like TEA has that we're a recognized campus or whatever, like the A, B, or C. I'm good with that, but not the whole,
Well,
here's your taggy sheet of paper.
So
that
what's the
has been there
what's
for
the
3 years.
difference there?
I'm sorry.
What would the difference be if you had to post that versus the other, I guess, is what I'm asking.
The visual. I'll send you a picture of my office.
Let's take a vote.
I'd prefer to table,
Okay.
so people can get further information like Blake asked for.
Okay.
I second that.
Since I brought it up.
So
I
we
believe-
want to not take a vote?
Mr. Chairman, did we have a motion, though, initially for the first one?
No,
I thought we had a
No,
motion, but no
I guess we
second.
don't.
we never did.
Okay.
It was
No,
just
so we
inquiry.
don't want to. Consider the vote then.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna,
Gather more information.
Yeah, we're not gonna make a motion then, we're just gonna.
Leave it.
We're just gonna leave it like that, pretend the last 10 minutes didn't happen.
No, just real quick,
I'm so to speak
Carrie
right
Hodges.
on this side.
I'll actually, Shannesty actually gave me some good information for 74.67. We're gonna look at the options because apparently there's one that'll actually give you the option of where you wanna post it, and so it's something, language that we can additionally look at. So, moving on.
I do want to add in the sound effects from Ms. Newland over here into the draft.
May I do them again so you can record it?
Take that note.
It's already live.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, 84.
Twice.
Okay, so we'll leave it intact for now.
Thank you.
And let people weigh in. I'm on subchapter J on page 33, driver education and driving safety school cancellation and refund. This is actually also has the statute in 1001, 402, 3 and 4, 401, 402, 403, and 404, so these are statutorily required to have these termination and refund policies. So a lot of what you see here just mirrors or says you must comply with the statute.
Ella,
Or
this-
clarifies what the statute says.
Sorry, this is David Bruce.
Mhm.
One question. So under that 84.200C, that is statutory as well? 'Cause that language, I believe, may be new for the driver safety industry, and it came about once they were combined.
It must have, yeah, it's not in the statutes per se.
C.
Carrie Hodges, and this is the type of stuff that we want to see comment on. We do want to see comment on looking at the cancellation and refund policy. I'm not sure if it's in, I think she was looking at statute, but if it's, there's things that we can always alter.
Well, it says the refund must be issued which corresponds to the actual instructional hours not provided. And in the statute, it says the policy must provide that refunds are based on the period of enrollment, computed on the basis of course time expressed in clock hours. So traditionally, in a lot of our, when we have schools and regulate schools, educational schools, the student pays for the time they're actually in the classroom. But it's a little bit different in different industries, but that's kind of the general theory is a little more pro-student. That it's best not to leave things like this unclear because it could be fodder for challenge. So, but that was the thought behind it, is that the refund is for what part of the class they did not attend.
This is Kevin Knapp. So what about if you've got a student who just doesn't show up, they just quit? I mean, there's extenuating circumstances like that. So now we're obligated to give a refund even though they don't show up, they don't care about the course?
Currently.
Well, that's what the law, I mean, I can't really change the statute, but it says the policy.
Oh, come on, Del.
I'm sorry? I can do a lot of things, but not single-handedly. And this has been the cause of a lot of discussion among other types of schools that we regulate. You know, you pay it all up front, and then, or they pay it all, and then 50% they, for some reason uncontrollable to them, they can't attend the rest of it. Do you have to give them
Yeah, I understand
the
that.
rest of it?
Yeah.
So.
This is Carlos Reyna. This has been an issue for our industry since forever, because we were assigned proprietary school language, and proprietary school language, we're talking about beauty schools and technical schools and so forth, that deal with government funds, okay? And for that reason, refund issues were big. In our case, none of that happens. It's all private funds, and the fees are much less, not even a tenth of what some of the others pay. And that's why I was hoping that in the strategic planning, that something could have been done at that point to change and change this refund issue for our industry, because it's just not applicable. All right, and that's why to be penalized 20% of penalties and so forth for a student who just simply doesn't want to show up for driver's ed. I mean, that's, it really puts a burden on our schools, both financially and administratively.
Well, I understand, because you have to plan the course size and how many people are there and all of that.
Question, mine is saying, it prefaces it if a student withdraws or is terminated. So if the student doesn't withdraw and you're not terminating them, that goes back to what Kevin asked. They just never showed up. They never told you they withdrew and you didn't terminate them. Does the rest apply?
Yeah, and I think this is language that Carrie Hodges, I think this is language that was taken directly from the current rule, and we could definitely expound on that. I think it's implied that if they never show up, that you as a provider would terminate them. But we can look at exploring that further. And just to comment real quick, David, I know that you were looking into it, and we're going to compare license types to make sure that what is for driving safety is also, whether it should or should not, we should add some additional language to that. I made note for that.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
I know in statute there's a 10-day, they haven't showed up for 10 days, but if it's the 30th day of class, there's only one more scheduled class day, so that doesn't equal 10. And we wouldn't terminate them till the end of the contract, and then the contract's over.
Okay, yeah, and we can look at clarifying the language. This is actually language that is currently in.
Right, no, I like this language because that actually, if we don't withdraw, that they don't withdraw and we don't terminate, then the rest of the sentence doesn't apply. And I think and I'll make comment because there's other parts in statute prior to this, in the statute, dealing with the end of the contract that I think somehow has been missed in the past. So I'll send some information on that.
Okay, I look forward to it. Thank you.
Yeah, this is David Bruce. Just one more point. I mean, again, if we all want to treat our students well. I mean, word of mouth is it's great business. If you don't treat your students well, it's just not good for anyone. But a lot of it, if you look at it from a liability standpoint, so Section C is new to the driver safety industry from a rule standpoint. So when it was combined, Section C shows up. And the questions that I just was thinking in my head as a course provider and a school owner, if someone doesn't show up, do I have a liability as a owner for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? When do they call me and say, by the way, Mr. Owner, I want my refund now? And then it seems to be some conflict with the code, and if I'm start quoting code, I'm in trouble. But 401, where it says a student can cancel the enrollment contract before the midnight of the third day other than Saturday, Sunday, blah, 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 unless the student successfully completes the course or receives a failing grade of the course examination. So it kind of talks even about if the student fails, and again, this might be just for driver safety, if the student fails, they shouldn't deserve a refund.
Yes, David, that's for driving safety only. It was put in for that reason.
Okay. And so maybe that's something we can, I mean, it's already been addressed somewhat in the driver safety industry where someone fails. Right now, you can give them 3 attempts and so forth. But looking at it from a liability standpoint, this language is confusing to me.
Carrie Hodges, and that's why we have additional eyes today, so we can start looking and have some of these questions and work on it. So I appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Glenn Winningham, not to go backwards, just on 84-102, I'm sure it's just a typo. It says ABD. Is C missing, or is that just?
Yeah,
okay. All right, cool. I'm just making sure.
Thank you.
Where's that?
Right here. 84-102 ABD instead of C.
No.
Yeah.
Another test.
And he's passing with flying, so he's on that.
That's great.
Okay, I think we can move to 84-300.
All right, so we're in the fees, on 84-300, subchapter K, page 34.
Security.
We left these aligned with each license type instead of combining. There was no way to really combine all of them.
Carrie Hodges, and I'll just speak to the fees just real quick. The way that the TDLR does things, and I wanted to go ahead and address this because I've been asked this many times. Are you going to reduce fees? Are you going to increase them? The reason we haven't touched them yet is because we need more time to assess the program. You know, do we necessarily need the fees? Do we need to increase them? We need to decrease them. We're not going to make any decision. Our 1-year anniversary is September 1st. And so we, after that year and a half, we'll look at fees, and then executive will make their decisions from that. So those that are here are listening. The subcommittee did not look at any of the fees because we were instructed just to let them be for right now, so we can have some time for some information and some additional research. Thank you.
Question on top of in the section before the fees, under G1, whatever this little audit thing, which I'll have comments on that later, it asks for the social security number.
That was highlighted, yeah.
Yeah, that was highlighted because it was in some of the refund policies that I combined and not in all of them, and so, is there a particular license type where you would require the social security number but not in the other, or can that just go?
I'm thinking that could go.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
believe anybody collects that.
I think it was in the safety school. I can't remember which it was in the rule, but it wasn't in the other one.
I think a long time ago it was an item.
Yeah.
But because it scared a lot of people when we asked for that data, we got to delete that.
Okay. Okay, and toward the end of the fees section, number 7, a processing fee, let's see. Oh, sorry, 84303 on page 36, and 3304 and 305 and 306. This is just letting you know where to look for the fee in our overarching Chapter 60, which is our general rules of procedure for the agency. The late renewal fees, rather than going into all of them here, you can go look at 6083. The dishonored check fee is in 6082. 6042 is if someone has a criminal history, wants us to let them know if we believe we would be denied, they would be denied for a license, they can write us. There is a fee for that. And 84306, any duplicate license is $25.
Glenn Winningham, Carrie, isn't on 84301 number 9 not supposed to be there? The administrative staff member deal that y'all removed?
Oh, it's still in there?
Which one?
84301 number 9.
Oh,
Yeah, 'cause we don't,
Page turned over.
yeah. Because we're not.
302 number 9?
Yes, you're
So,
correct.
301 number 9.
301 number 9, okay.
Yeah, so we don't license them anymore.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And just a little foreshadowing, we are going to remove some of these fees and lower some of these fees. I'm extremely uncomfortable with the size and magnitude of them. The $9,000 number just screams at me like, huh? That's entirely too, are we buying the car with the license fee or teaching people how to drive cars? So that's something. The other one is the late instructor renewal fee. Those are going to go away. That's the one you've got to do the sending it within 30 days and that sort of thing. And while even if it stays in law, we're probably going to, if it stays in law, we're probably still going to make that a 0 penalty because that one is not late to me. What's late is the late renewal after the expiration. So you'll see changes of that as we start moving forward with it.
Okay, last item, subchapter L, the complaints and enforcement provisions is way pared down from what you have seen throughout the old set of rules, but basically, it just directs you to the code and the chapters that we regulate. And there's whole subsections in there of our procedure to send out the NOAV and all of that, rather than have these different penalties and all that throughout the rules. So this is traditionally in all of our other rules. So with that, Any further questions? I will commend you for reading all of this and having a really eagle-eye view on it. I really appreciate that, because it's been a lot of replacing and changing and all of that. So hopefully it's getting to a format that you can read and understand, and we take your words very seriously. So what I will do is make the changes that you wanted to make today, and then we will put them out on our website probably later in the week, or what day do you think? Monday, maybe?
Let's shoot for close of business on Monday, because
Okay.
I want to make sure that the presentation of the material gives everyone an understanding what we're trying to accomplish. This is a big deal for your industry, to be able to have this look and be able to talk about it. Sometimes people get so frightened by it. Oh my gosh, they've already made these changes. Oh my gosh, look what they've done. As opposed to understanding, we're asking them to help weigh in on the process. So we're going to probably have a narrative on the front end that lays out, here's what these rules are. They're proposed. It's a reformatting. We need your help on identifying the areas that still need to be improved, just we'll give them guidance on it. And so I think making that language plain talk and very clear, and then the mechanism by which people can provide as their comments, I want to spend a little bit of time to make sure that's done right. But we'll get out close of business on Monday.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Fantastic work.
Great job, team.
Okay. Next item is H, recommendations for agenda items for the next committee meeting. Members?
I have a recommendation. This is Carl Schreiner.
Yes, sir.
I don't know if y'all have heard in the last, I'm going to say within 2 weeks, 3 weeks, there was a lot of news regarding deaf education and driver education, and they're being kind of not being provided the services that they want. I believe the case is going to the Supreme Court, and I was just wanted to get ahead of the game, because I don't know which way it's going to go, but I was wondering what TDL&R's position is going to be with regards to that.
We can provide an overview of the steps.
And just kind of open it up for discussion. I've had experience with it because I've been through a lot of that, and I've paid attorney fees and so forth, and came up with some resolutions that I could recommend to people, because we don't want to just exclude them for sure, but there are certain conditions that have to apply to all of us, and so I just thought it'd be something worth discussing.
And Mr. Rainey, we'll definitely have that on there. We will probably make sure that the conversation is structured in such a way that our comments do not adversely impact the course of this lawsuit, because the issues appear to be bigger than just an independent school providing it. It's a statement that extends it to the state's responsibility and taking ownership in providing it. So there's a bigger fish that's on there than just saying, here's how you can fix it individually. So we're going to be careful about that, but we'll definitely provide an overview of
Provide
the
some
case,
guidance to us
and
as
we'll
far
provide-
as,
yeah.
as how we should approach it also.
Okay. We'll definitely have that on there.
Any other items that we should consider adding to the agenda for the next advisory committee?
Mr. Chairman, we should have some information coming back in regard to the providing information to the courts. There was a lot of great ideas that came out today in terms of, we already have the data, so we will have already had our meeting with OCA, in between the time that we get back. We'll also do our research on any court cases that define commercial. But I look at the charge under 1001.057 as a responsibility of the department to come up with a mechanism that gets that data there. And so we may look at it from that angle as well.
Carl Schwein again, because we may need to consider in your strategic plan, if that is possible, there will have to be some statutory changes, language changes made to take out that mandate for U.S. mail and so forth.
We'll definitely look at that.
Anything else?
Mr. Chairman, pack a lunch for the next meeting, because it's going to be a long meeting. You guys did a great job today of getting your sea legs ready for a very involved rule discussion. Again, I want to praise Mr. Bruce for bringing, taking that position early on about what should be removed and what shouldn't. You're going to have more of those moments. And I think it's important for the industry to recognize that you guys aren't always going to have a unanimous vote, and that's okay. You're going to have a fair and transparent discussion, and that's what the process is about. It's not about, all 11 said yay. It's about having that dialogue and representing the different groups out that are going to be impacted by your rules. And I think it's fair for them to hear that deliberation with respect and consideration, but to really hear what's going on. And you're going to have a lot of comments that you're going to be able to wade through. So it's going to be a very, very involved, long meeting.
Thank you. Good segue, Brian, for our next item, I, which is discussion of date, time, and location. I know that we agreed the last time that we were here for, it was our next advisory committee meeting is on September the 22nd at 9 a.m. However, I know that there's now a problem for the summit, which we had actually talked about for August the 25th.
Correct.
I think what was proposed is maybe combining the two. In other words, forego 825 summit meeting and combine it with 922 and just kind of make it a little chef's blend, two for one.
It's got some possibility, and I kind of came with that idea this morning, but the more and more I start thinking about how you're going to be slogging through rules all day, and are you going to be fresh enough to have a very involved dialogue? I mean, Patrick Barrett doesn't bring up any issues at all, You're going to have a very involved about curriculum, because curriculum is weighty. And so we may need to think about having that summit subsequent to the 22nd and dedicate your full energy and intellect on that issue. And I will go on the record and say Cindy Jo warned us that August 25th was not going to be a good day with school starting. Sure. And that's what we've ran into, that problem.
But I like the idea.
All right.
In regards to, in other words, having so you're thinking that we're just going to be a little too tired. Why don't we have the summit in the morning and then do the advisory meeting after?
Honestly, I don't think we're going to get through all of it.
Oh, okay, I see what you're
There's
saying. So it's just
no
might be too
way.
long.
I don't see it.
So then what we're considering now then is, other than 825, maybe another date? Delia, what do you
Yes.
recommend? Instead of 825 for the summit. So we still
Yeah.
want to have the summit separately then?
Yeah, I think so. You're going to get a really good taste of free advisory board work.
Sure.
You're gonna get. Yeah, I think it needs to come subsequent to that.
Okay.
And you want it on Thursday?
What day?
On a Thursday?
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We can do, we have a commission meeting October the 5th, that's on a Wednesday. Do you want the 6th? We have the 6th available, the 13th, and the 20th of October.
Okay. I see, we got the 6th and the 13th you mentioned, one week after that. Either one is good. 13, Glenn is saying.
13 would not be good.
Not good?
13, I'm out.
Okay, 13, I'm out. Let's go back to the 6th then.
Sorry.
I'm good on the 6th. Glenn, that might not be a very good one. Carlos? Cindy? What other date, Delia? I'm sorry.
The 20th.
The 20th.
20th.
So the very next Thursday, all 3 Thursdays in a row. Okay. The 20th. I'm good on the 20th.
I'm good on the 20th.
20th?
It's a not good one. Those 2 weeks are bad for me.
Okay.
October.
See, now just about everybody for that one with the exception of Glenn. October the 20th, everyone?
Yep.
Thursday morning, Delia? That seems to be
9 a.m.?
9 a.m.
October 20th for the summit?
Yes. And that's almost a month, or 1 month. Yes?
If at all possible, if we can make it at 10 o'clock, because those of us who have to fly in,
Yeah.
I take the red eye.
Southwest has slightly changed their plan,
Yeah, they
haven't
have.
they?
And so we don't get in until 9 o'clock.
Yeah,
And
9:05
so
is
if
when
we
they
could
land
make it
us
either
now.
9:30 to 10
10,
o'clock.
yeah.
Then Cindy makes me late.
Sure. Maybe at 10 o'clock in the morning?
Yes.
Because you're such a gentleman.
And by the way, while we're on that subject, did you want to change the time? Can we do that for the 9:22, the next one? I guess, would that help too?
That would be.
From 9 to 10, can we officially just do that, if that's okay with everyone?
We can
Might as well
change
start
the time, yes.
immediately. So our next meeting then is on 9/22 at 10 a.m. We had already agreed to that, and then after that, it's going to be October the 20th, 10 a.m. too.
Yes. Got it.
Thank you so much. Anything else? Any questions? Any comments, anybody? Thank you so much to the public, by the way, for coming in. Public comments, staff, we really appreciate it. And of course, committee members for your time, I really appreciate it. Guess that's it. We are adjourned.